of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right. Start is to adopt the agenda.
And I would like to add one item to the agenda. We promised that we would make an appointment to the Dark Sky Initiative at our last meeting, and so I'd like to put that, we could put that under
Items for discussion.
for discussion or to be considered throughout the meeting. I think that would be the appropriate place.
And the opioid response committee is requesting to table their session to the July meeting.
Oh, that would be good, actually, if they were here.
Yeah.
Is that why you planned that?
No, it's because one of them is actually gonna be here for another item anyway on that day, so.
Oh,
Makes sense to table.
My question, do we need to do an executive session to discuss contracts? Do you know?
We have an executive session
On
on
personnel matter?
personnel matters, but I don't believe contracts. We
Okay,
do have the FOP contract on there for
right.
round five.
Okay, then with that,
We adopt the agenda as moved.
right, what's the favor? Meeting minutes for June 4th. I read through and thought they looked fine. You selling? Okay,
I move to accept the minutes for June 4th as presented.
okay, all those in favor? Oops, I barely got to get a second in there. Perfect, okay. Have to change public comment to 9:01 from now on. We're so efficient. All right, good morning, everyone. And so we're at the time where we can have public comment. I do see a few members of the public here, and then our regular staff and employees. So who would like to begin? Maybe you in the back?
Me?
Yes.
Oh, putting the center of attention on me already.
Staff in the back, that's so unfair. Here we gave me a signal that you did not want to be first.
Well, I should introduce myself, I guess. Mike Chapman, grew up in Austin County, and just wanted to come introduce myself, meet everybody, and that's it.
Yeah, good. What
So-
town do you live in, Mike?
Hmm?
What town do you live in?
Oxford.
Oh, we live in Oxford. Okay.
Yeah. No, I grew up Bethel, Gilead area, but migrated.
Yeah. South, of course, wise man. Good, thanks for being here. We don't have visitors often, so it's nice. All right, yeah.
Yes, Skip Herrick, citizen from Paris, also candidate for county commissioner. And just wanted to come in. It's such a nice day. I said, I don't want to stand outside. I want to come in and see.
Good luck, it's a long day.
So you shouldn't have said that publicly because people will question you.
Yeah, how about you introduce yourself?
Oh, hi, my name is Louise Hiltz. I'm Nathan Hiltz's mom.
Okay.
And, we've been going around to different towns and school board meetings, select board meetings, and just seeing what, everything is about. And so it's interesting learning.
Yeah, good. Thanks, for glad to have you here.
My name is Nathan Hellstrom from Wilton.
Thanks for being here again, Nathan.
I'm just here because of Bethel, Mexico discussion.
Okay, do you want to make a comment now about that?
Oh, other than I think Bethel's going the wrong direction, what they did at the town meeting last week. Beyond that, now I'm here to I hope the county can keep something on the table for a while until Bethel figures out what's gonna do. The meeting tomorrow night, select meeting tomorrow night to sort through the wreckage of another article that was defeated, that needed to be defeated. Now it's gotta be revisited in a special town meeting. I've heard June 30th for that, and so I'm hoping that the selectmen see to it that they try to put our funding article for police on that warrant as well for June 30th. But I understand it's on the agenda here, I want to hear the conversation here. I have really nothing to offer other than to say that I hope the county stands by. So, thank you.
Any public comment online? Anyone online that wants to say hello, tell us what town you're from? No one online wants to give us a hello this morning. Okay, very good. Then, we will move to the items for discussion and action, I think. We could do the Dark Sky Initiative first. I guess as Tony's here, Tony, did you want to be appointed to that? I thought that was
Working with the group in Rangeley already, so not Dark Skies Initiative, but attended the Rangeley board meeting last night, and I'm traveling to UT, so I'm in the area all the time, so a meeting is not an issue. So 4 meetings a year, I think they mentioned.
Yeah, and then that was not like unity, but just 4 meetings in the,
Yeah.
okay. Any other comments on that?
Just that I really want to get the proxy for Tony in case, so we have 2 people, in
Yeah.
case one of us can't make it. If the other one's there, and again, we've been talking a lot lately, it seems to Rangeley, so, it kind of makes sense.
And there's no reason, and I'm also interested in it, but when I said that, they're like, yeah, join the meeting, no problem. So I think it's also just fine if more of us show up, just because that does interest me, but I like having someone designated, like this is the person, and then if you can't, then they for sure is going to be there to just represent us. Okay. Sounds good. We need a motion on that.
I move that we appoint Tony Carter as the representative of the Dark Skies Initiative and as proxy.
Second?
Okay, all those in favor? Okay, then we could do either do you want to take your pick here, airport grant resolution or?
Tony is here, and since we've already got him talking, we might as well keep him talking, so, the airport grant resolution is an important one, so. Feel ready, Tony?
Yeah, I don't have that in my packet, but I'll speak to it easily. We applied for 2 grants. One is the FAA grant, money for Bill, which was the last year we got those monies, and the other grant is the grant that goes out to all airports based on their size and activities of $150,000. And we applied for that grant also to help fund our airport master plan update that we previously agreed to get started on before the grants were approved. But we've got the grant offer, and all it requires is this resolution and the signature, and FAA will grant these 2 awards to Oxford County as sponsors for Oxford County Regional Airport.
So just to remind me of the process, previously we had just approved applying for the grant, and at this point, we're approving accepting the grant.
That's correct.
Okay.
And in 2026, the grant amounts, FAA pays 95%, 2.5% comes from the sponsor or the Oxford County, and 2.5% will be paid for by the Maine DOT Aviation Division.
Which is usually 10% broken up between the 2.
Yeah.
This time, it's only 5% broken up by the 2.
Oh, okay. All right, is there any discussion on this? Any questions? Sure, okay. Except, these both of these grants.
So moved.
Those in favor? Okay, thank you, Tony. Right, how about
Article 7.
main development resolution? you want to do that next?
We have Sherry here, so
Yeah, I was gonna say, as long as Sherry's here, I know that she wanted to have some input, so.
I didn't look for that article. Going on order sometimes makes it a bit,
Well,
yes, yeah. Okay, perfect. Who wants to start off?
well, I guess I would start off with saying that, we, both Abby, Sherry and I all attended, a Zoom presentation, from them. I felt like it was something that was, for the cost, was very appropriate for us to get involved with. It's opens up some training, for our leaders, meaning for our department heads, and I think that it would be very beneficial, for them to not only have this, but have this as a resource for them to use, because they can make phone calls, they get connections with people doing the same thing that we're doing. And I think that for the $425 for a membership, I think that it would definitely create some creative partnerships is one of the things that they strive themselves on, and leadership development. And I think that we could use both of those things here. So I think to get involved with them and to regularly meet with them would definitely be advantageous.
Just offer a comment. I've had much experience with MDF and they're a quality organization, and $425 worth spending, in my opinion.
Could I just add, one statement is that it is, all of their resources are open to all of our employees. So not just department heads, not just commissioners, but to all employees. And I really see this as a value to each of our departments to be able to develop leaders from everyone who works for us, not just our department heads and those elected officials that we have. So the leadership class that I went and participated in last week was absolutely insightful. We were able to mingle and talk with Representative Rachel Henderson as well as Representative Baker. And it was really insightful. And I think that being able to extend that to all of our employees would just be so valuable, not only within our walls, but being able to work with the other counties and departments in the state like we do so often.
Are other counties involved in this?
We would actually be the first county involved with MDF. This is the type of leadership that I think Oxford County needs to be the lead in. And with MDF, I think it's a great step in that direction.
I also have had quite a bit of experience with MDF, and I think they are a good organization. I don't see as much value to the county for this. I think that kind of more town groups that are looking to update their Main Street and that kind of sort of initiatives, I think a lot of their forte here. I personally am not in favor of doing this. I also think if it were, I would prefer to make it part of something we consider as part of our annual budget. Because we're going to get to our budget currently and have sessions, and things are really tight this year. So I feel like now's not a good time for us to put this aside for something I see as marginal value for the county. I understand, there are definitely some offerings that are helpful, but for me, I would be not wanting to spend the money at this time. And we consider it as part of our overall budget, even though it's a small amount of money. I think right now we've got to pay attention to our sometimes. So that is my perspective on this at the moment, but I'm happy to, anyone else want to offer it?
So I think I checked out for a minute. I didn't hear a price.
$425. It's hard because we lost part of our.
Okay. $425?
Yeah.
Per person?
No,
No,
It's just for the whole program.
it just gets you a membership, and then everything, like if you were to do a leadership seminar or whatever, all those things are extra.
Okay.
it does give us a discount on some of the classes. I think that that all of the classes that they offer, there is a rate for people that are not members and that are members. And again, I would have to check in specifically, but one of them was like $500. But we would be credited back to $425 if somebody attended that class. In regards to it, again, I would have to check into that, but I do remember in the meeting us asking, you know, what some of the benefits were. And that's one of the things they started with was that. So sorry to interrupt you.
That's okay. I was just gonna say, I'm all about anything we can do to help develop our people, advance their careers, advance just even their job performance. And I think $425 in an $18 million budget isn't really that much. And I'm not sure how many people would actually take advantage of that. But I'm for it, but let's see what someone thinks.
Yeah, I'm definitely in favor of leadership training for any and all of our employees who aspire to be effective in doing their jobs. And as an expenditure of that amount of money for a 1-year trial, I think it's worth experimenting with it. And I would move that we authorize membership for a 1-year basis, a trial basis, in the Maine Development Foundation.
Thank you, motion. I'll second that.
All those in favor? All right, motion carries. All right, 2 to 1. Okay, so
For the worksheet, we're still got 14 minutes.
you want to go over your worksheet, Celine?
Yeah, absolutely. Working's always fun.
It's thicker and thicker than.
I don't know, I actually felt like it was a little shorter, this month, but I think I missed a lot of things because unfortunately, I feel like we're getting busier and busier. We are tackling more and more, technical issues, I guess I would say. They're not just straightforward. There's a lot of moving parts in each issue, that we're dealing with. And that becomes time consuming not only for myself, but for my department heads.
Do you have anything specific you want to highlight, or I have certain things I wanted to just ask questions about, but I don't want to.
Yeah, I want to give you a little bit of an update on number 10. I met with Siemens. We've been meeting with Siemens regularly over the jail, the new renovation that we did at the jail. We seem to have some lingering problems. And we were dealing with the heat exchanger, and they're helping us out tremendously with that, reducing the cost in regards to that. We had another circulator pump failure in our heating system, which right now in the summer with the heat the way it is not a huge deal, but this is the second of a $3,000 plus pump that has failed. And so we are working to get an estimate for a filter system that would keep that. It's basically the high mineral content and the metal that's in it plugs up these newer pumps and causes the failure. However, during the discussion of this, and Tony and I working together on this, we realized that there may have been a change order that we put in during the process to have actually already installed this. So we're just started digging back into that paperwork, but this may be something where we need to bring back to the attention of the original builder, that this was supposed to have been in there as the original equipment, not now, at extra cost. So I just wanted to update you on that because that had happened just yesterday. We realized that.
Anything else on there you want to? Range transmission.
No, I think right now with IT, we're looking at some things going forward with, and this is, I'm talking about 19, meeting with IT and going over Motorola. Motorola would like to shift us to a contract where we pay for a lease rather than buying the items outright. And with the amount of updating that we're constantly doing to this, it makes a lot of sense. However, if we do this, the towns that work with us will have an increase as well in price. Not a huge one, but a 5 to 10%. So it's something that I want to reach out and discuss in a forum with the town. And Quentin has already created that. meeting. I reached out to a couple of the town managers in order to discuss this, but the towns that will be involved will be like the ones that have police departments, Rumford, Paris, Norway, Oxford, and Freiburg will be, and they've all received their invites and have all responded that they'll be either attending in person or via Zoom. So I will be looking to probably update you with an article on that, and we will look at that going into budget season, because we need some extra things for Spillman to do to include in evidence tracking that we currently don't have, and it's becoming very imperative at the sheriff's department we have that. If we add that cost into purchasing, we're actually exceeding what we could do a yearly lease for. So it's a little bit of a technically good situation, because you would think purchase is a one-time purchase, but you actually purchase it every year for a certain amount. This lease covers a lot more for us, with a cost increase, but similar to what we would if we paid for the modules, and we wouldn't have all the other things that came along with it. So again, just bring that to your attention, because we are just on the start of that, and I will keep you informed, but I do think that that is going to be some discussion, especially around budget time.
Seeing on item 22, first of all, thank you for attending the first meeting with proxy in my absence. A follow-up email from Malcolm indicates the availability of an inspection of pressure vessels and boilers as a follow-up option. Do we have any interest in following up on that, or do we have any need for it?
So I know that I think some of our boilers fit that criteria, and I definitely will follow up with him. I have not at this point followed up with him. I'm definitely very interested for him from the risk pool. I'm monitoring the other thing, which is some education for our drivers in regards to that. But yes, I'm going to follow up on this.
Thank you.
So my first question was on number 8. You had put reduced costs in FY26, and I was just wondering what we were looking at for reducing costs there.
Well, Tony and I really have worked. We're really trying to stay into our budget from the UT as we close out this year, and some of our paving. And I can defer a little bit to Tony. Some of our paving, we've cut back on some of our paving, a little bit of ditching, and some things in order to make sure that we come in under budget rather than worrying about going over.
Okay. Yeah.
We discussed some of those up in South Arm and so forth, are some of the roads that we're talking about.
Because the projects came in more expensive than we expected, or is that the problem, or we just didn't play budget for the projects we need?
I'll give a few examples. Price jumped to the highest levels for asphalt this past week because of fuel prices, crude oil prices and so forth. Culverts have doubled in price in the last month. So the costs are getting out of control. Diesel surcharges are coming into play. We should see some relief already, but in the last couple of months, the work that we and purchases that we made and commitments, prices are outrageous, so I have to cut back somewhere so there's some roads that I don't need to pave immediately, but it was convenient to do it while we were there. So we're trying to take a proactive view, but in honoring our budget.
Yeah.
So
And did you say it was the price of culverts that have doubled?
$22 to $44 a foot.
Wow.
It's kind of double. So yeah, those are the classic ones that we buy multiple of them a year. So we kind of sat down and figured out where we could help ourselves without hurting the overall projects, because some of these projects are 4 or 5 year paving projects, and we're still within striking zone of those.
Right.
We are already discussing our next year's budget for UT. And then we're going to be seeing some certain increases that we're going to request for them because of these increased costs that we're seeing. And it's not just about paving, it's also about emergency services and so forth. Tony was just up in Rangeley yesterday, because they're actually have established a committee with some of the Franklin County UTs to look at ambulance service and the cost of rescue services there. They're actually using some informal statistics of growth in our UTs. That we're having such a large growth that they don't feel they can appropriately cover them, as well. And that's something that we're continuing to work with them. You know.
The leaking basement in the
Oh, yeah.
courthouse, I was hoping we were gonna go back to the contractor on that. Is that,
So
where's that
we're,
at?
we're trying to work something out with Cross, excavation right now. I've got to the point with this, and he's gonna offer us, some of his thoughts in writing in regards to this. He's not necessarily taking the responsibility for this. However, it is a serious problem and we need it to get rectified. So I have Tony working on it. We're all working on it.
Yeah,
We really are. Maintenance, as we've been down there a couple of times with the principals from Cross, to show them what's going on. We're constantly cleaning it up. Again, this weekend, we had, a half an inch of water on the floor when we came in on Monday. In that room, it's contained to that room.
Yep.
And it is cleaned up very quickly. Within an hour of us getting here, it's cleaned up. It's we're working that, but it needs to be resolved. The drainage system on that outside corner needs to be fixed. So we're working on it, and once we come up with a solution to it, if there's an added cost, it'll come before the commissioners.
yeah, it seems like since it didn't leak before they did the work, that it's pretty, say they weren't responsible for it. Number 20, the northern border project, what is that?
Yeah, we're just continuing to work on the grant writing for that tower.
Okay,
Up north, we have got a lot of support. Again, Rangeley kind of being one of the people that we've hit to write us a few letters of support. Some of the unorganized townships up there as well. We're trying to get some letters of support for them because, again, they realize that not only do they not have emergency services communications, but they also don't have cell phone in that. And
oh,
that
so the
this
tower would help them as well.
this would help provide them this as well. So we've kind of kept them involved as well. And again, kind of double meetings when we go to Rangeley. When Tony goes to Rangeley, he's talking about, oh, yes, yeah, he's our liaison to there. And as you saw last meeting, Joe, I never say his last name, Roach came down
Yes.
here and attended our meeting. So
Yeah, it was really nice.
he's willing to travel as well and come talk to us. So I think that's a good relationship to keep going. And again, I think that tower project is an important one for us, especially when we see the expansion into our unorganized territory, like at Rosebuck Camp and, Septic and all of those areas. We really need a tower up there that's able to communicate with our emergency personnel.
So the tower that we're looking at would help Rangeley itself, or just some of the unorganized territories up in that area?
It will help northern, New Hampshire, it'll help
Okay,
northern, Franklin County and northern Oxford County.
okay, so it's kind of very like,
First statement.
Yes, if somebody at some point, something up there, we would already have it, but it's never been an area that has had a lot of population.
right,
And unfortunately for us, I mean, we look at that $11 million that is invested in Rosebuck Camp, that's meant to attract people.
oh, yeah,
So we're trying to meet every other week right now, and I believe we have a location, site. Now, it's been studied, and we are going to be looking at the landowner and approaching them at some point to see what kind of deal we can work out, so.
so you're meeting every other week to get ready to put in for this grant, so that we're shovel ready for this.
Yeah. So we'll apply for the grant this time, we're gonna be shown. Have all the details done, we'll pull the trigger with your approval.
Yeah, that's a good project for sure.
And with the advent of the new technology we have, if it's on Route 16, which we're planning, we'll have broadband and electricity. And it will be able to connect to our system through the broadband, whereas before it had to be microwave and things like that. So we're able to connect a remote power into our system. Fortunately, that the broadband goes through Route 16 for us to use.
other words, we
All of
have.
these towers are authorized towers on broadband.
Some of them, have that capability, yes. We can tie towers together via broadband and, or microwave. Microwave is much better, but, we do use broadband at times.
The new system has a lot of redundancies in it, so we can lose one or multiple towers and still be able to function quite well. And that was the primary point of the tower.
Right.
Yep.
And then the microwave versus broadband, is that a distance concern? Like if like microwave works, if the towers are close enough to each other, or how?
And that, the particular tower we have doesn't have line of sight to another tower
Okay,
at this time.
yeah,
If we
So-
find another one, we may be able to connect that to even make our footprint bigger.
yeah.
At the same time, Franklin County is talking within Franklin County about communication issues and their towers and so forth.
Right.
So it's in.
Yeah.
So,
The only other question I had in here at 9:30, so I don't know if we should show it for another moment, but it was number 23. Is that something you want to tell me about quickly?
Yeah, quickly,
Or do I?
and the Paris Fire Department, for some reason, we've always had a little bit of a satellite station down there. And through their growth and so forth like that, they've really run out of space for us down there. So we started talking to Norway about it and quickly realized that we had our own great site, which is the Oxford Airport.
Yeah,
And Tony's office can certainly, with not a lot, be made to support that. One of the other challenges that we currently have is that we have all our IT in one building over there, which is all the servers and so forth are in that same building over there. And I was gonna let it wait for later, but Quentin made a great find for us up at the Main State Surplus, and he was able to locate for very inexpensive money some servers that are very heavy duty servers. So we will have the option to put a backup server down there as well
at the airport.
at the airport, so that if this building, something catastrophic would happen to this building up here, we would be able to go right off-site and back everything up using that backup server down there. And I say this, so I'm just spoiling it for everybody, that Quentin saw a pallet of electronics up at Surplus while I was up there to pick up some furniture, and we ended up spending $500 on about $40,000 worth of equipment.
Nice.
Doing some servers and
So what is it exactly that we had at the Paris Fire Station?
we had a backup station so that if you
Yeah.
We had it set up so that if something happened here, we could just go down with our go bags and our equipment, and we had phone service, bathrooms. And, we weren't in their dispatch room with them. And for whatever reason, they've brought out monitors and things, so we need a place that we can keep our stuff secure. And, that's a major thing, and a place that we can go that's pretty well set up, ready to go if we have to, like they said, if something catastrophic happens, which it has.
Mhm.
We just have an alternate site all ready to go. We have the backup radio system that can be there, that can reside there. That way we have a backup to our radio system down here as well.
and it needs to be within close striking distance. It can't be in Bethel or Rockford or something like that. It really needs to be somewhere local. The airport is very local, and again, it with all the updated systems down there, we have great heating, cooling, electricity, all the things that we would require in order to jump on down there. And we have close proximity to Oxford Fire Department as well.
Thank you for that. Okay, all right, sorry that we're a couple of minutes late, we're trying to squeeze things in, and then it's like department head meeting. Sharon, how about we start with you and whoever you want to go first, into whatever sheriff department.
I'll start with the morning. I'm going.
Good.
I'll blow through this really quickly. There's a lot of people here. There's a lot to do today, but just got with overtime and order-ins for the sheriff's office. This between May 19th and today, we filled 75 shifts and had 7 order-ins to fill. Today's the last day yesterday actually was the last day for SROs. The part-time SROs are down to the school for the year, so they're off the schedule, obviously. The full-time SRO that we have, the full-time deputy's been reassigned to an open vacant patrol slot for the summer, which will help us out a little bit. We've had 32 deputies attend training events in the last month or so. Training went from managing critical incidents to OUI training, spike mat training, internal affairs training. So it kind of runs the gamut of the things that we had to do. Some of that's been mandatory and some of that's been more really employee development and growth of the agency. Memorial Day Parade, we have 5 members of the Honor Guard in a showing for the Sheriff's Office, presented the colors for the hiring parade on the 4th of July. 14 deputies attended this month's grand jury. Obviously a big couple-day event for the patrol division because it required our deputies to testify and come into court. So it's just kind of a tough couple days. Regarding generally speaking about patrol, obviously sometimes calls ramping up, scheduling continues to be a challenge. We're currently prepping 1 deputy to attend the academy, the Mayfield Justice Academy in August. We've had a couple notable drug trafficking arrests and some seizures here in the last month. We've investigated a couple notable serious injury crashes also. Most of those have been related to the public through press releases. We've had 2 taser deployments in the last couple of weeks, and we have 1 deputy that's about to clear field training, and he will also be assigned to an open vacant patrol slot also within the next couple of weeks. The detective's been very busy, obviously. We've had an influx in cases come in. We've seen an influx in Department of Human Services, child abuse type cases have come in, which is very time consuming for the detectives. The detectives have also recently undertaken a surveillance detail, which was very successful. They arrested a couple suspects in Lovell that were involved in some ongoing thefts and other criminal activity as well. And the Bureau of Highway Safety Impaired Driving Grant, we're about ready to wrap that up. We had made a request for some additional funding, which was denied only because I think that the Bureau of Highway Safety has already allocated the extra funds to other departments. So we did not obtain any extra funding, but we did conduct 34-hour OUI impaired driving enforcement details over the last 3-4 months since March. And during that time, the deputies have stopped 154 vehicles. They've issued 163 traffic warnings, made 3 OUI arrests, and issued 14 summonses. So I think overall, the impact of those Bureau of Highway Safety grants, impaired enforcement details is very beneficial to traffic safety in Oxford County. So that's all I have. Yes. Yes. That's all.
I've got a real quick question. And I'm not sure who can answer, but I was asked how many hours a blue pen part-timer can work a year. Blue penner, not a green pen. So would it be?
The only thing that would fall underneath would be our county, sorry to bottom here.
Yeah,
It comes up to our county where they would get benefits. So Abby would have that number for
it's
you.
like an average of 29 hours a week times 52 per year.
Yep.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, thank you.
Because it doesn't violate anything with the academy, it just violates our statute
Yeah.
for full-time benefits.
All right.
I think the number was 1,040 the county had, and then it should, if they're full-time certified, then there shouldn't be a number to limit that.
Well, I was thinking the federal qualification, the difference between a full-time person and a part-time person.
That falls.
It's 20 hours, 29 hours a week. So if he's a blue penner, he doesn't fall under
I'll let Abby speak on the county policy.
I guess I'm now confused on what.
It's just, again, so just to bring it back is that there is no limitation, because if they're blue pin, they're full-time certified, so they can work as many hours as they want to work. It hits no rev limiter for the Maine Criminal Justice Academy. The only limit that it raises is hours, and that if at a certain point, we have to offer them benefits. And
so it's an average of 29 hours. Okay.
There used to be, I think with the sheriff's records, there used to be some sort of, there was like a cap that we had to meet to track for Main State retirement, but that no longer is a thing, so.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right, well, I think Major hit a bunch of spots, but I was able to attend a dedication ceremony on Saturday for the Sweden Fire Station. It was very well attended. A great facility. If you guys get a chance to take a look at it, it's a very modern facility. One of the things they have is they have a new tower there, a communications tower, but there's absolutely no cell phone service at the department. And I think they said they're working with you to see about getting some things. So they seem pretty excited.
It's on today's list.
Today's,
Nice.
we're hoping to approve a contract with somebody to get us some cell service.
Yeah, that would be,
That's-
that'd be a big deal for that area for sure. Also attended a Bethel, town meeting last Wednesday, but that will be on the agenda, I think, later for discussion. So I'm just gonna leave it at that and look at you.
Nope, I'm good. Major in the sheriff covered everything.
Skip to the jail, maybe. Morning.
Business is booming.
Oh, no.
Follow up to the other major, all those, detective work and arrests, they come here. So we got 60 we're in charge of right now. There's 43 in the building. Catching up on a lot of online training for the staff. Fully staffed, will be fully staffed hopefully after today. Our long-term 39-year employer, David Foster, retired at the beginning of the month. So getting ready for a busy summer. Okay.
Jerry.
Good morning. Okay, so, I was contacted by Greg Payne at the governor's office yesterday in regards to LD 2231. 2231 was passed this past session in order to more accessibly allow manufactured homes and tiny homes to become real property, because currently they are not considered real property. The land that they sit on is. So what LD 2231 does is transfers or cancels the mobile part of the home so that it is stationary, and it allows them to record that deed of property, real property of the manufactured home with the registry of deeds. This is a little bit of a process because they first need to come to the county to register documents in order to go to the Secretary of State to cancel their mobile home title. Then they need to come back to the county in order to make it official. I did not create this law. So next week is our monthly association meeting. Registers are going to be meeting with 2 representatives from the Secretary of State's office, as well as Greg Payne, to iron out what this looks like for us. We do not provide forms on behalf of the state. The state needs to provide us those forms in order to record. This follows along into that detail that our office is required to pay attention to, because if these details are missed and it is not properly recorded, then the client, the property owner, gets frustrated, things don't happen the way that they can, their mortgage can't go through because they can't get the lower rate of lending. So I just want to reiterate, these are the details along with main revenue guidelines that we pay attention to daily to make sure that we're hitting every point that the state requires us to make in order to do our jobs productively and accurately. That being stated, you know that I have Alicia, who is 1.5 years into service with Oxford County, as well as Millie, who will be celebrating her year next week. And then we have Missy, who has been with us for just about a month now. I have to give them all kudos because our office is very detail oriented, very process oriented, and each of them take great pride in what they're doing daily. One of the statements that we make every day is that we need to be able to sign our name to our work and be proud of that. Each of them is very proud of where they work. Each of them is very proud of the work that they produce every day. And I'm just so thankful that I have the team that I have right now standing beside us. Oxford County is very fortunate to have those leaders in the Dean's office. So thank you guys, and that's all I have.
Everything seems to be going pretty good around here. Everybody's chilling. Haven't heard any complaints of anything anyway. That's about it, I guess.
All right, finance. Who wants to go first?
I'll just hit some general points and then let Lindsay. So we have a number of items affecting budget to actual, which will go into more detail in our report. And we can fill the color in on that. One of our focuses also is wrapping up the ARPA funds and getting those spent down by the end of the year. So we're focused on that. And we did the first draw on the TAN last week, so.
So what Beth said about the ARPA funds on your warrant today is authorization for a payment to Radio Communications Management. That will be our final disbursement under the ARPA grant. So that will effectively close out the grant, assuming you approve the warrant. And we will be able to file a closeout report, ARPA. Couple of other things, our auditors are on site this week, so they're sitting across the hall in one of the courtrooms, and they are conducting our 2025 audit. Because they're conducting the audit so much earlier than last year they were on site in early December. We expect that they will complete the audit well before the end of the fiscal year. So I'm expecting a draft of the audit. They gave the date of August, but to give them a little more time, I think probably October is a reasonable time to expect an audit, which will be great because it will be available as we're developing our budget as well. So we will be on task, providing them everything they need this week, so things will move as smoothly as possible in terms of moving forward. Other things, we had an incident of fraud on our debit card. There was a charge put through. We contacted the vendor did not put the charge through. The department has no record of the charge. So we are resolving that issue with our bank. The fraud investigation is ongoing. But hopefully we will have an update soon on those departments which debit cards were not impacted by the fraud, that you can resume using your debit card. But we had to put a hold on all debit card spending temporarily while we looked into the issue with to insurance. Just to note, when you have a department debit card, make sure you're keeping that in the locked drawer when it's not in use. Make sure the use is restricted only to the department head or one other delegate. We have had multiple times that we've had to have cards shut down. This is the second time since I've been here, so there may be something in our processes where we need to strengthen our controls. Another thing, this charge went through PayPal. So make sure you're not adding our debit cards to any third-party payment system, as those are extremely open to fraud, and it can happen very easily with those types of systems. Just another thing to note is that I will be on vacation in July. So Darren is going to be trained on payroll. He will be running the second payroll in July. He has sat through 2 payrolls watching me, and the last payroll he was driving. So there will be 2 more payrolls before I go out on vacation. So he should be fully up to speed on everything. And so just if you have payroll items, you can copy both of us going forward, just to get into the habit. I'll make sure he gets anything you send to me without him, but during the week I'm away, Healers would want to make sure you send it directly to Darren. All right, that's all.
Yeah. EMA, who would like to go first? Allison or Jamie? Okay.
I am going to be attending the Seniors Plus Healthy Living, I believe it's called, Expo on Monday, and doing a small workshop on preparedness, emergency preparedness for elderly. That's what I got going on.
So we're also working through the details of the fire project to see if we can keep it on track or if we have to push it out a bit. This is the hazard vulnerability analysis update for the county. It's the Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities Grant deadline. There are 3 communities that are trying to get grant funding requests in. That was pretty good. The federal government's catching up on their oversight of projects. In particular, the one that we have in our county is acquisition and demolition projects in Canton. So they're all going to be outside tomorrow, unfortunately, in the state level meeting at the exact same time to review the green space in perpetuity and also some of the documentation. We're also removed from just the upper Androscoggin to now also the lower Androscoggin and the FEMA flood map updates. Out of 24 towns that were contacted by the contracted organization that's working on those updates, 2 actually came to a meeting, so I'm gonna forward out their information to the next time meetings come around, hopefully get more communities involved. And the final thing, a review council report was out, if anybody is interested in seeing that, reading it. And the emergency management performance grant notice of funding opportunity was released yesterday. Short suspense for the state. I'm not quite sure. It's this month, July 16th. So I'm not quite sure what they're going to do with our end of it. If we're going to have a later deadline, how they're going to work that, but hopefully we'll see that information over the next week. So yeah.
We continue to be busy, as you can hear from everybody else. They're busy, so my new administrative assistant, Elaine Moore, is doing a great job, taking a lot of the workload and doing a great job at it. Staffing is a challenge again, so we'll figure that out. And I've had a couple of people that have been out on sick leave. They'll be returning this week, so that'll be a help. So we just move forward. That's all we can do.
Hey, Tony.
Okay, everything paving, all about paving remains, so getting prepped this summer. Most of the paving will be done in August. So with prepping roads and all that. We have 2 in Albany, Andrews Road and Patty Brook Road. And 2 one in Southdown, of course, and then Milton will be looking at that one. I've got a few calls on Milton, so you probably will through chair. So UT managers meeting first Carol is being held next week in Bangor, so you with Chip Jones, associated with the state of Maine, and all the UT managers across the state will be meeting next week. So excited about that. So as far as the airport, the grant we already discussed, that's been approved. We just have to sign off on it with a resolution that completed already. So next week we start our first meeting with the advisory committee for the airport master plan. Public's invited, and we have a team of 7 or 8 plus Maine DOT, the FAA, and a team of 7 or 8 plus public will be invited at the airport as well. So just want to report that our C, Matt Elder with Max Arrow, they're up to date on their lease payments, paying electricity bills now. So very happy about that. And just in the last week, picked up close to $250,000 in work because of business from aircraft owners, large aircraft that can get into Oxford, and $4 million in new business coming to the airport. They're here in Oxford. So fly in August 15th. So he's creating a 501c3 in addition to his business to promote to charitable events or charitable organizations here in Oxford County. So when they have raffles or any fundraisers, those funds will go to some charitable organization. So right now, see, it's listed on their flyers if you need one. I haven't received one. I'll have Nicole print them out for us. But right now, is it Pink
Pink Feather Foundation, yeah.
Feather Foundation, they're gonna recommend as a donation from that kind of ones. So that was pretty exciting and kind of probably a lot of thinking as far as the new business coming here in Oxford County. So next week also I have main litigation and another board meeting. That's happening next week as well. So very busy. Going on tower project we discussed and getting a number of things still bringing them on the list that I don't want to get done. So,
What did you say the date of the flying is?
August 15th. From 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. A lot of kids events, different competitions. So we're working on that's why Maine, again, anything the National Guard can bring in for aircraft. Plus, we're promoting that, another event in the fall. These advisory committees, so we've gotten to use conference rooms, pilot's lounge for more events. And kind of excited about, the RCC and IT at the airport. So.
All right, Zane, you're next.
Well, you've heard a lot from me about my administrative list, and I know the time is thing, but I want to give my time for coots and kudos. Quentin, like I said, made a huge find up at State Surplus, which is going to save us a lot of money and allow us to institute a few things with the Spillman program earlier than if we had had to budget for some of that. The amount of memory that he got, just by skipping his memory, and I think he got 38. Was worth the $500 that we spent on the lot. So I wanted to give him, credit for that. That was a great find, and will certainly help out all the taxpayers in Oxford County through that, and will also help out a lot with both the Spillman program and other things going forward. Wanted to mention that Nathan Bowles has just recently joined us in the IT department, and he is also finding himself right at home. And really pitching in to do things. As you saw, he was troubleshooting for Commissioner Millett this morning. He got that taken care of quickly, so he's a very good and reliable employee. Tony and the UT, we've been working with Rangeley and the UT. There's been some things that would definitely affect our UT budget, and Tony's been right in there meeting with them and doing that. So I really appreciate that with him. Lindsay, we just went through a closing out our ARPA funds. And Lindsay did a great job checking all the balances, working with our auditors and something like that to make sure that all the payments we're making are going to work out and do well. And I really appreciate all of RCM for their being patient with us while we make this final payment. So that, I really appreciate all the work there. And again, the ARPA closeout, dealing with the fraud, and Darren, he's not in here, but Darren has been doing a great job. That payroll system is not easy to learn. He's been doing that and also keeping track of our accounts payable, accounts receivable, and doing a really good job. He's got some warrants due for you folks to sign. That'll be really good. Yeah, I think that's about it. We've had a lot of hurdles these last couple of weeks here. And we've really come together as a good team in order to make those things, deal with those things. Dana, dealing with the RCC with the incident he had in his office, did a great job, keeping control of a really volatile situation there. On Tuesday when we came back, the Sheriff's Department did a great job responding and following up the investigation on that to provide video documentation and everything. So again, I think that the whole crew I'll give you all kudos that are here today. We've all done a really good 2 weeks. At least the last 2 weeks have been really busy. So I appreciate all that.
I don't have too much that they haven't touched on, other than just, your continued participation is appreciated for Wellness Works, especially getting the word out, to departments where your employees may not get emails on a regular basis. Printing off flyers, helps to print email, put in the break room helps. Yeah, just want to make sure everyone gets a chance to participate. So thank you.
Meeting, I guess, is the barbecue, right, for Fourth of July? barbecue?
Yep, and the massage break is coming on Thursday.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Two quick comments about some road projects. Inquiries coming in from Albany. The first being on the big stretch of 5 and 35 that goes from North Waterford through Albany to Bethel, which was in the DOT biennial transportation improvement program to be done this year. Did a lot of the right-of-way work in the last year or so, and the projects have now been put on hold because of lack of funding for DOT and their road budget, which is partly a product of what we were in 131st in the time. We thought we had put $100 million more money into the highway fund to get the federal matching monies. We put all the liquor revenue, we put a portion of the sales tax in, but this last session monkeyed around with that. And DOT had expected the governor to put in a bond bill to draw down money from the feds, which is really 4 to 1 of $100 million. They're now calling it a $400 million shortfall. Long story short, we, constituents here in Albany and I, through my DOT contact, have been pushing to get a firm answer. Is there anything going to be done on that 12-mile stretch? And the answer we're getting, both of us, is that they're going to have to put off this total rebuild, but they're going to do some paving, we think, this summer on that 12-mile stretch. We've both had good feedback from DOT. The chief engineer has concluded that it really needs something. But it's a sad story that what would have been a major project is being pushed off maybe as much as 2 years until the next legislature can grapple with that problem. And the second one, and very quickly, don't rely on Tony, but I wanted my fellow commissioners to know that John Jaguziak, who came before us, he's an Albany resident, on Hutchinson Pond Road. He was here before us in March of 25. And his actual involvement goes back to when Scott Cole was in Zane's position. He's looking to get 0.2 of a mile extended on his roadway, and he asked through Tony to have a conference call. And before I agree to it, I want to make sure that Tony's involved and you two are aware. This could be an expensive request, something outside of our budget. So I'd like to work with Tony and make sure that maybe if we do a conference call or even a road visit, that he's with me and we know what is involved financially before any commitments are made, because I don't want to be committing to doing something for this constituent without it being a priority and fully budgeted. So I'll work with Tony to get more and more information. Hopefully we can make contact later this week with the constituent.
Sure, Tony.
Yeah, I have an estimate for that work as well. My concern is if we do this section of road, which road is next?
I assume that perhaps Tim has back as well.
Yeah.
Be cautious.
For myself, not a lot. I did visit the Franklin County Jail recently, and I've got an overview of their addiction treatment program that they're doing there, which is the monthly shot. And so I've invited the woman who is spearheading that project for Franklin and also for Somerset to come give us a presentation next month so that we can just hear what they're doing and see what kind of, a lot of that is funded by grants. So I'd like to see what options are available for us as well, because they're having really good results with people who are, going back into the community and not having the highs and lows of Suboxone. They're just, it's pretty steady and finding good results. So I'm looking forward to hearing from her and seeing if that's something we could do here in Oxford County. And yeah, I think that's it for me as well. So thank you all so much, and I look forward to the barbecue. Really actually looking forward to barbecue. I think that kind of stuff is really fun for the county to just be able to do something outside of the building and, you know, just hang out a little bit. It's just nice. So with that, I will say good morning to everyone. Thank you all so much. Have a great afternoon. And we'll move on to what's next on our agenda. Here.
Okay, I think we've hit a lot of the side points with Dan's briefing in mind. We certainly answer any questions or add to that if you'd like. If not, we can move on to the other one.
Question we specifically had was the incident that was here. It was reported as shots fired and it wasn't. And that is concerning to me because that, you know, just how did that happen and has that been investigated? Because of course, if there's a situation, you know, anywhere, we want to make sure things are accurately reported and.
Yeah, so that one we probably can't speak a lot about because it is pending criminal charges on that. But my guess would be is that somebody, whether it be in the dispatch or some citizen, heard a taser deployment, which is a pop, and reported as a gunshot. So it's nothing that we reported. It's what information was provided to the dispatch center and given to us. That answers your question.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's not uncommon to have information, you know.
Oh, misinformation is, I get that. I was thinking it was one of our own people that had said it was shots fired, but it wasn't. It was just reported to dispatch as shots fired.
That's my understanding, yes.
It was, there's multiple agencies that respond to that. Because technically the Paris Police Department are actually the first, because we're in Paris. So Paris, Norway, and Oxford. By the time I got there, there was multiple Oxford, multiple Norway, and multiple Paris officers there, as well as some county folks as well. And I was there about 20 minutes long. So, yeah, so I don't know where exactly it came from, but there was a taser deployment there.
Yeah, I'm really grateful for the response and of course that everyone's safe, and that was just terrifying incident for you as well. So yeah, grateful everyone's safe. But okay, that was my one question.
Okay.
Yeah. So what do you have for us?
My highlight was that I think we've hit most of the high points today. If anything else you want us to answer, we certainly will, but if not, we could go on to the next items.
Okay. I think it might be better to talk about Mexico before Bethel. We just switched the order there. What is the update that you wanted us to have? And it says executive sessions may be needed. And so if we need executive sessions, I'd like to maybe take these.
And table it to the end.
Yeah.
Well, just, you know, we had sent off our agreement to them. They had sent back a request to redact a lot of the agreement that provided you folks with the redacted item. And wanted to know what and where, get some direction from the commissioners board here as to where we want to go with this. I do know also that Mexico is at the point where I'm sure their town meeting is coming right up. So I'm not sure whether, even if we answer this, whether Mexico will be making any choices, because the last time we were told that it would be after town meeting. And again, I'm not sure whether town meeting comes up, I'm sure it's coming up. And also they are having an administration change down there. I've been made aware that Jack is leaving soon. And that Amy Bernard will be starting. I know her start date is July 6th, but I'm willing to take anything or direction from you folks. I know that you were very solid on this contract. We have given it to them. We have gone up and met with them several times. I do feel like, you know, meeting over these contracts is inappropriate. just make sure everybody's getting the same information. It's hard. We try to do our best.
So no, I didn't ask for executive session. I think that was just something you folks asked for, but was,
I didn't know that when we, you know, if
I'm sorry.
It's like a placeholder more than anything.
Okay.
That's details about involved in the contract.
So I thought the way we left it is one of the last meetings, I asked to see if we could have a group, whether it be the chair and the county administrator, meet with their town administrator and their one of the select board and myself to see if we could move this issue along. The board keeps changing up there. They did reach out in an email about a week and a half ago, asking to see where it was at, but I think the flavor was to wait to see if there's a new, a new person up there. But my suggestion is to try to set up a meeting with a member, obviously maybe the chair, Zane, their staff up there, and to see if we can answer these last couple of questions and move this forward.
Yeah, I did reach out to Richard Gilbert, but I'll need to do that again. Because he is, consistent, even if the administration changes, we still have the same select board and they are the ones, so, and I was just gonna talk to him personally and just see, what his thoughts are. So I did, obviously read through the changes that they are requesting and agree that we cannot make the changes that they're asking. I think I saw one thing in here that seemed fine, but just requires more conversation. And the timing is a little bit odd with them changing administrators, just because the perspective may be entirely different with a new town manager, I should say. So have you had any further conversation? No.
Just that Jack wanted to make sure that the commissioners had reviewed the changes that they had requested in the contract to make you aware and to report back to him any new things.
Yeah.
And the last conversation that we had was that the commissioners have done a lot of work on this contract, and I felt like that they were pretty firm on the contract. And it would be really, if we were to step above the MOU, which the MOU is currently in place, and it's a signed MOU between us and the select board up there. This is slide 3. With the advent of 4, we've just never supplied the 4 because our kind of look on this was supply the 4 when you sign the contract. So again, it's kind of in the commissioner's seat of where we want to go with this. I'll be willing to reach out in either form.
Yeah, so I think, you and I definitely, and the sheriff, but at least you and I need to go talk about the contract. But one of the things that I did question, and maybe we can look at this prior to our meeting, and that is, if you're looking at the contract on page 5, article 5, subsection 5.4, it says at the commencement of this agreement, before any services are provided, the town shall pay the county an amount equal to 3 months of service in this agreement for the first 3 months of coverage. So that's saying, pay upfront 3 months, which is very sensible for a contract. However, if we have a current MOU and then they start this, those costs are more ongoing than upfront. So that was the one part of this that I thought I needed to look at again.
So this contract came out of the history of us we were dealing with Dixfield, and Dixfield had gone a substantial number of months behind in their payments to us. They did pay us all that was owed to us. But at one point, they were a substantial amount behind. Commissioners were concerned about that. Finance was concerned about that. So we put this clause in there so as to keep us within that 90-day window of when we could say, hey, we haven't received payment for a whole month. We're going to start working to cancel this contract because it takes 60 days in order to do that. So that's one of the reasons why this was put in. However, you're right. We are currently receiving monies from them, but 4 months of service. We're billing them or we're we're receiving payment, I believe, for the previous month. Is that accurate?
They're actually behind a month at the moment, but, I was going to follow up with them today about that.
Yep.
Who's behind Mexico?
Mexico.
Yeah. Yeah, right, so that is sensible, I think, at least having, so. Ties into where we are now with Bethel, actually, but in consideration of this. Okay, so I understand now the reasoning for this is not. I was thinking of it more as a deposit towards upfront costs for vehicles and whatever the things that we might have to purchase, which also makes sense if it's a new contract. But under current contract, this is a way for us to stay, so we're not paying the bill ahead of time and expecting them, like we're holding it, like we're upfronting the cost if we are asking them to upfront the costs of the month to month lease. So, okay. And so last time when we brought this up, it wasn't part of our agenda, and that was why I had said, please, let's not discuss a Mexico contract without it being on our agenda, because I want to make sure that if we discuss it, if there's interest, people know, and they're either watching or know where to go for that. So, I guess I'd like to know when their town meeting is, and then so I'll reach out to Richie again. And, from this out here.
Yeah.
Because he's the chair, which is why I just thought I'd check in with him first and then follow up.
Yeah, please let us know, and we'd be willing to attend if you ever want to bring time meeting. They usually meet after hours, so
Right.
Yes.
Right. If there's any other comments on the Mexico contract changes they're requesting?
Well, I think you pretty much covered it.
Okay, that's all. So. I'll let you start. I have questions, but I want to jump into questions before you put it in overview, because I may be more familiar with the situation than the other commissioners.
So, leading up to, last week's vote at the Bethel Town meeting, I had several conversations, with Sharon Jackson, who is their town manager. And she's always been somebody that's, very good at communicating, back and forth, wishes of the select board in Bethel, as well as, and she's in charge of their finances as well. And we deal with a lot of issues back and forth. She's always very good at communicating. She started communicating with me about, the possibility that, at their town meeting, they might not fund, the article, associated with our, contract. She wanted to know some details as to how and where we leave that. I explained to her how and where we left Dixfield. That Dixfield voted not. And so we, on July 1st, ended our June 30th, July 1st, we ended our contract with them and moved our personnel to Mexico. Bethel right now, I was notified later on after the meeting, actually during the meeting. I was notified by several people that the article had not passed. And I confirmed that with Sharon Jackson the next day. And at this point, what I know, to be clear, is that they have not funded it under their original town meeting. There is some discussion up there. I think Mr. Cole would agree. There's been a lot of community discussion after this incident happened at there. And they have been talking about addressing this at the select board meeting, which is scheduled for the 30th. I did speak with Sharon Jackson again this morning to update and make sure there was no important information that I should bring to the commissioners. And she said, no, that any new important information would come post that meeting on the 30th. That's it, the 30th.
And there's a meeting tonight.
Is that
Tomorrow.
And there's a meeting shortly for them to even get on the agenda for the 3rd. That's my, thank you, Chair, because that was.
So one of my concerns here is that we just continued ad hoc this relationship with Bethel. And now we're at the point where they're done funding us this contract. It's not a contract, I guess. As of July 30, and that would put us seriously in the hole budget wise. So we have to let people go. I mean, we have in our contract that we've said, but for this contract, we wouldn't have these vehicles, we wouldn't have these people and whatever. So we have to then let these people go and change the way we're doing business immediately, or we're running behind on our own budget. We can't just keep them, nor could we just keep them in good faith to the rest of the county. Like, it's unfair to the county to say, we hired these people for this contract and now we're just gonna keep them on extra and basically provide, service without cost. In our contract that we were trying to get, we had a 60-day notice. So since we're not, and maybe I'm just gonna look at you, Beth, on this, but since we don't have a signed contract with them, that would mean there's no 60-day notice, right? And so so they don't have to pay us for the month of July, done June 30th.
Madam Chair.
Yeah.
I just have to interrupt you because Beth is our treasurer and I'm sure she's passed the bar in me.
Yeah.
But I don't really think that we should be using her as a legal precedent here to defend us. I really think that if we're gonna ask a legal question about our obligation under these contracts, we should really be referring to our legal staff. I was waiting, that was one of the questions, and I'm sorry that I didn't get this answer, but I do think that at some point I want to get your permission because I know that we're trying to hold down our costs on talking with our legal counsel, but I do think that this is something at some point we should have reviewed by our legal counsel to see all of what our obligations are under this previous contract, because as we had discussed in previous meetings, there are some pieces in this contract that really don't fit state statute. And we want to be aware of that, as well as aware of what our obligations are under the contract.
What contract doesn't fit state statute?
So the reason why we originally reviewed, and I know this has been a while, the previous contract, which is what was last signed by Loretta Powers and Tom Windsor in 3/19 of 2019 is the last official version of this contract, and it was set to automatically renew under certain circumstances. However, there was some language in there that our attorney had, when reviewing this and writing our new contract, had said, we've got some issues here with these. Section F, where the sheriff shall make all decisions regarding hiring, assignment, and firing of deputies is in there. Although he does have a lot of input into that, it's your final say. And then there was another in reference to the sole discretion of the county and the sheriff to have the office space up there. Now, I believe that that's something that we need to discuss because I believe that office up there needs to stay regardless of whether we have a Bethel contract or not, because we use it, our Zone 3 deputy uses it exclusive to be up there. The Bethel unit does also. But again, there's several, I just want to stop. I really don't want Beth to be our legal counsel on this and put her in a predicament.
Yeah, and if I am gonna talk about it, I mean, I think it should be an executive session if we're crossing the line into legal. And I would also caution the board to not make legal declarations like we don't have a contract, because it is arguable that when you have an offer and acceptance and consideration in the form of payment from Bethel, that a new contract was formed, even though you don't have that language signed. And that again is something for our legal counsel to explore. So I wouldn't make declaratory statements about that.
Thank you. Yeah, good caution. Thank you. Yeah, so I guess my concern now is just the moving quickly, which is my point, is that we have now noticed that they're no longer going to pay for these deputies, and due to their vote, I recognize that they have a meeting and maybe they want to have discussions and all of that, but that is all them and so outside of us. What's happened is a vote. It's very definitive vote. It wasn't even close really, but regardless, there's a vote, and the majority of their select board is opposed to this contract. So we, I think, have to be wise in the use of our own money and what we have on the table in front of us. Which, and I, this is a cautionary tale for doing this in the future and then making sure that it happened to work out with Dixfield. It isn't going to work out that way with Bethel. And, because Mexico is still up in the air. And, these are people's livelihoods. It's a big deal. And the impact on our budget is also a big deal. So, I don't know what the board wants to do. I personally feel like we just need to move forward with saying we're done. We have no contract with them. I mean, this is the what ifs in the future are one thing, but we are where we are. Yeah, sure.
Again, I disagree that we don't have a contract, and I don't think it's something you keep saying that we don't have a contract with them. Have one signed that continues to carry over. I think we should.
Absolutely not. I said in the very last meeting when Bethel was here that we are in no way under the contract that was signed before I was even a commissioner. I just disagree with that.
I disagree with your legal opinion on that.
Yeah.
So I'll just.
I think that's the question on that, and, to the extent that we are operating under different terms and a different price, it's arguable that the contract has been modified again. This is a whole legal landscape, and I think certain things are gonna turn upon how that falls out, so. Yeah.
Right.
I think we should.
So my recommendation is wait to see what happens in the next couple of weeks, and we have a meeting in early July. If you feel you need to take action then, but I think it'd be prudent to wait to see what takes place in the next couple of weeks. And if you have some legal guidance from the attorney.
So I've thought a lot about this since I found out about the vote. First statement I want to make is I don't want to lay anybody off until we've exhausted all possibilities. But if it gets to the point where we have to lay them off, we lay them off. I don't want to do that. But to me, that's the last resort. I'd be interested to see what our attorneys say on the 60-day clause. Maybe we would have to supply them with 60 more days at the end of the contract. But at that point, take this contract or you don't have work together. I want to see what the attorney has to say first. Just because I don't want to deny Bethel something that we find out later they're legally entitled. And if not, if the attorney rules the way you think, then June 30th at midnight, we're done. We're done with the contract.
So the town meeting voted 88 to 42 not to continue with a new contract. The select board is meeting on the 30th. I heard.
I think the select board is meeting tomorrow, and then they will either they've already established, I believe, an emergency town meeting because they didn't fund their administrative budget either. And I believe that they've confirmed that they're gonna have that. The select board members will take up whether to add to that. It's complicated. I'm trying to.
A warrant has not been signed yet for the 30th. That may happen tomorrow night. Presumably something will happen tomorrow night because as the administrator said that in a separate matter, the voters properly tanked the administration proposal. That's a separate matter, but now this police thing has come up. And I don't know, Chairman's correct. There's both the board seems to be opposed to funding the service. It's not unanimous, but there seems to be a majority. Find out tomorrow night.
So the 30th is a potential special town.
That's being kicked around. It's probably for a lot of reasons, probably lines up as the date to have it, but I'm not in it here in official capacity. I just know because I'm around it.
I did call Sharon yesterday, the town manager, to talk to her about this because I wanted to have an understanding of what sort of discussion we would even be having since there was a vote to not fund this contract. So, and So I am aware that the June 30 date was just the date they could set because they have to have it published, yeah. And, the administrative budget is no longer funded as of July 1st if they don't do something to fund it at that special meeting, town meeting. So they do have a reason to have a meeting. However, you know, I think it's 4-1 on the board, that they don't want the contract.
No vote's been taken. I don't know where you get the 4-1.
Oh, that was, what, I guess maybe I misunderstood Sharon, that how they spoke.
She tends to overtalk, yes.
Oh, she said their conversation was that 4 of them were in opposition.
That's big. I
Yeah.
don't know what they voted, but yeah, that
Right.
is hearsay. I suppose.
I guess that's how they spoke about the contract or something. But I may have misunderstood that exact context, but, so anyway, so I said, well, what is there even for us to talk about? And there's just a lot of maybes for Bethel right now.
And I would just interject though, that there are a lot of maybes. And as you pointed out, that we're talking about people's livelihood, poor individuals' livelihood here in our community that have done a lot of service for us. And I think that it behooves us to take some time in order to process this. I do see that if the money's not in the budget, if there's not things that we can do, but there's a lot of oars in the water. We had the budget committee speak up about doing a study that we're currently in the process to. I know there's lots of ifs, ands, again, oars in the water over that. So I don't want to speak directly about that, but there are a lot of things that are there. We have the Mexico contract. If it does get approved, there's one of them that can continue to serve for us. So there's a lot of things going on here. I'm worried about our reputation for being able to hire quality law enforcement personnel. We already pay a lot of money. We don't have to offset that because of the unpredictability of us. So I do want to proceed with caution. That would be my only input here. I know that Lindsay is going to speak about some of these things in the treasurer's report because she has given us. I've also looked at the sheriff's budget right now. He has $300,000 in his overtime budget. He's he's filling 75 shifts this last month with overtime. Maybe there's some things that we can work, and maybe there's some things that we could even work with FOP. Would be glad to work with us on in order to keep these 4 people while we work some things out. So I would just provide a little bit of my statement is of caution. Not that I don't agree with you, Madam Chair, that if we don't have the budget money for these, then these people have to be laid off. However, there are some steps in between that I'd really like to explore.
So I think that we maybe set up another meeting for the commissioners to discuss this after the select board vote. But I will say that the select board has given us, we've been trying to get this contract signed by them for a year, maybe, whatever, a very long time, and they have not wanted to sign the contract. So they've been giving us every indication of not wanting this. So when we say we need to proceed with caution and we need to move slowly, we have been moving slowly. We've literally strung out the line to Bethel and gone over it, and gone over it, and gone over it. I'm like, I want Bethel to have this contract because I care about the town of Bethel. I think they should have this. I think it's really important for their community, but I don't live in that community. And I'm not in sales. And I'm not trying to sell Bethel on this contract. I just think they should have it because I think it makes sense for their community. But they have said in every way to us, basically through all of the back and forth, that they don't want it. And now we're at this point where we're saying, oh, well, now we have these people and we need to proceed with caution. We have been. I think this board has really tried to work with Bethel to portray our perspective and be so transparent and try to make sure that this, we're dealing with them and they're very happy with the service. Like they are very happy with the service. They're not happy with the cost. And we're all love to see the Oxford County budget go down. Totally would. But we can't just magically make the cost disappear to appease them. And that's, honestly, that's where the rub comes. If there's no other thing than that. The people want the service. I think they do. I know that the sheriff's office has provided the service. There's zero complaints that I've heard, you know, not zero, but there's very little complaints about service. It's really the cost. We have been over and above, like, waiting for this contract. Like, what can we do? We've said we'll have as many conversations as we want. They've said no for a year. Yes, so.
I think there's two separate issues here. For me, the proceeding with caution is not about whether or not the contract might potentially be revived. Because again, I don't see that necessarily. There are some outstanding questions there. For me, the proceed with caution is more from a financial analysis standpoint, where based on what Zane touched upon, you know, we have an overtime issue that very well could be solved with, you know, the personnel that could be reassigned from Bethel, you know. And other issues that I really think we ought to run some numbers before we just say we don't have it in the budget, because there are ways we are running over and potential solutions and so forth. So that to me is the proceed with caution focus of, you know, let us work with the sheriff and the administrator and look at what that full landscape looks like if we have some extra people to help ameliorate some of our other budgetary issues. Rather than pulling the trigger right away. That's why I would argue for a little extra time just to do some analysis.
If I may, after that's the point I was trying to make, not as eloquent, is that if we can find a way to do it, that's why I want, you know, let's do it. I just, one, we can't go over the budget, and two, the absolute last resort is just to say November 1st, July 1st, you're down. I'm not for that. I want to see the numbers first.
Thank you, Beth. I do think that there are two separate issues here, that hopefully we can break it down to small pieces and deal with small pieces as it goes. But again, those are my thoughts.
Would the board be amenable to having a discussion on this by Zoom prior to, but before the end of the month, like maybe next week at some point?
We also have a July 2nd meeting and a June 30th potential meeting, so it might be more prudent. I would just suggest that you wait to see what happens on June 30th. And then on July 2nd, I'll probably let you know what action I'll be taking. If we don't have a contract, we'll be looking at, I'd be reassigning personnel and things of that nature. But I think we would be better off waiting to see what happens between now and June 30th. And we have a meeting on July 2nd. And I think that's something that's advertised and people would be able to be there for.
So that depends, even though if the select board puts it on the warrant, if it doesn't go to the July 30 meeting, then it's.
Yeah, two days, so, but I would probably take action July 1st and reassign people, and we wouldn't be billing them probably. Unless, of course, the attorney says there's a 60-day clause, which I would really like to hear from the attorney as to what advice our attorney, the county attorney, has in regards to the contract moving forward. I think before I can make any decisions on what I would do as sheriff, that I would like to have that legal opinion from the county's attorney.
Yeah, but even if our attorney says they owe you 60 days, I feel like I don't want to get in a lawsuit with that. If they said, no, we don't, and our attorney says they do, I'm not gonna.
I think I'd wait to hear from the attorney and take the legal advice from the county's attorney.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I wouldn't get into, I wouldn't get in, for 60 days, I'm not gonna get into stuff. Tit for tat with Bethel, I just, because.
I'm not suggesting that, I'm just suggesting that I would like to have some information from the county's attorney to make an informed decision, and I think that's prudent for the board to have that information as well.
On the contract, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, so, my suggestion then would be that if the board is amenable, that we have a meeting by Zoom after, depending on the outcome of the board meeting of Bethel.
So I believe you and the sheriff are talking about two options. One is to have a Zoom meeting following the meeting of the select board tomorrow night. The other option the sheriff presenting is to have a full discussion
On
following the June
July
30th,
2nd.
special town meeting. Will we have a whole picture of what the town is willing to do and wanting to do? If we engage between the 17th and the 2nd on your option? In other words,
So if the select board tomorrow night doesn't vote to put the contract, or basically it's funding the patrol, if they vote not to put the patrol on to the warrant for the 30th, then we'll know the answer. Because the town people won't have a chance to vote prior to July 1st at that point.
Yeah, but I still feel we need to hear from the county's attorney as to what recommendations and what advice that they have. For not only for me, but for the board as well, before you.
And just the caveat problem with that is that Matt Tarasevich is on vacation this week. He is out of pocket this week, because that's why I made sure I had a discussion with him about some other issues on Friday.
Well, I think the question of the contract, the new contract versus the old contract, I don't think it necessarily has to be Matt Tarasevich.
Yep, you can go.
Because I don't think we need to go into a whole bunch of detail on this. We just need to say, here's the situation. We had a contract signed in whatever year it was. We've had changes monetarily to the agreement since then. Are we still under that contract or are we not? I think that's a pretty basic contract law question that we don't have to ask him about. So then maybe you could find someone to answer that question for us.
We have Trevor Bryce from Skeleton Tainer, and he is currently working some photo stuff for us, so I'm sure that we could reach out to
And
him.
then maybe the board can have a discussion after you find that, and then after we hear what the outcome is tomorrow night at Bethel.
Work on it.
Okay. All right. Does that sound like an okay for you?
Yep, the only time I'm not gonna be available is gonna be Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. This Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Okay. And I would guess that we would be looking at next week.
Okay.
Right, before you could probably have an answer. So if you're not available Thursday, Friday, Saturday, they're gonna have their meetings till tomorrow night, so let's just, depending on what we hear, we'll maybe do a meeting by Zoom on, Monday, the 22nd, or maybe Tuesday, the 23rd, something like that. Okay. All right, I'll take it up then. Okay, I think,
That's something you would be able until that time, take a motion to table.
no, I think we discussed it.
Okay.
So we definitely didn't table it. That was a robust discussion.
Okay.
And I would, at the end of our session today, I would like to have an executive session to discuss contracts. I know we put that in the agenda as may be needed, but I don't want to kick everyone out and come back, so we will do that when we take up the other executive discussion prior to the personnel matter. We'll take an executive session then, is that okay with the board? Okay, we're just moving the location. Yes.
Levy, contracts, what, the police contracts that we've been discussing in the executive session, I'm questioning the validity of the executive session. That's where I'm going with this. The law is pretty clear when you can go in or not, so yes, could you elaborate on that?
We were going to go into an executive session to have a discussion on the Bethel contract.
And what is the grounds for the confidentiality? I guess so. It's not labor negotiations. It's simply two agencies trying to figure something out. I don't see where you shield the public from that conversation. I mean, checks out, don't hold me up, but
Yeah,
I question the validity and I leave that as a standing question.
okay,
The administrator too.
okay,
You get it.
all right. Okay, thank you. All right, the other thing on the agenda for sheriffs is the JAG grant funds.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you, Scott. Pretty much more look what we've approved in the past. So,
Yeah, it's an annual award every year based on, this year, that was the amount of the award. And then, we'll be looking at a few things in order for us to spend those funds on. This is something it's an annual every year. It's not applied for, it's more of an award. They call it a grant. They're looking at some things, there's certain criteria of things that we can purchase for this. So we'll come back with a thing. We're looking at, one of the things we are looking at currently is another radar speed sign. Those have been very effective in the area, in the county. And as I speak to different community groups and selectmen, traffic enforcement is a major concern, and those speed signs. So we're looking at some pricing for those. It should be an item that's not regularly included in our budget, and that's something that isn't, so that would meet the criteria as an option.
it is to be moved around if it needs to be.
Yes, yeah, and we have them already, Tim, we're moving around.
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah. So I think it's something that's, it's one of the things we're looking at. The cost had doubled, but we found a vendor within state, so we'll be looking at a vendor that actually I believe it's actually made in Maine, which was a plus. So we're just looking at those. We've got some quotes, and we're looking at the products. So this is more, I think today it's just acknowledgement that at some point those funds will be available. And it's already, you already see it in our budget every year. We put the JAG. We have a line in there.
$10,000.
Approximately, yes, yeah. I mean, it's a lot of money, but in some ways it's not a lot in today's day. So we're gonna try to do the best we can and find what we feel is the best purchase there. And currently, that's what I'm leaning towards is the radar speed sign. That's movable throughout the county, to communities.
I'm just wondering why on the budget summary, there's no amounts listed in any of the categories.
We go into the burn check with multiple agencies. That is the orchestrator, which is Chief Tony Milligan's. He takes everybody's requests and monies and he puts them on that. That's why that's blanked out.
Oh, okay.
So once we get in order to get approved for this,
Oh,
we forward everything up there, he tallies it, and then he puts that, forwards it to the state, which basically has,
mhm.
I'm just reading actually today. This is just one of it.
they get it approved.
Well, I guess approval was signed for it.
Yeah,
Approved, apply for it.
Well, that's the,
Yeah, I know.
we have to say we want it.
Right.
And the entity has to say we want it, but there's really no application, and the money is set. I mean,
So if suddenly we decided we didn't want it,
then we wouldn't get the money and someone else would, so.
we still have the option.
Yeah.
I move that we accept the burn JAG grant money for speed training.
It assumed in the motion that the money which we expect to receive will be adequate to cover that cost.
It would be, so, we have to spend all of the money completely, so sometimes we do slightly over and pull the money from something else. But the quotes that we have currently are less than $10,000, so we would buy, if we did go end up purchasing this speed unit, we'll be looking at some other items that are needed within the county.
Okay.
One quote was about 10,000, and then one quote was around 8,500. 8,500. So we have about $1,500 that maybe we buy an extended warranty plan. I'm not sure, we're still looking at what it is exactly, but we will pay for it within the budget. And we will over it, just be slightly bigger to spend all on it.
So I'm staying down, Chair, I'll second the motion.
Okay, all those in favor?
I think the only other item we have is, Dana, we have a hire. Is that something we could do while we're here, on the correction side?
Full time.
He's currently a part-time officer,
So it changes.
and this is a change of status to full-time. Okay. We conducted interviews last week of all three part-time officers we have, all interested in a full-time position. This gentleman is fully certified, already been in the Corrections Academy, he's worked as a corrections officer for over 4 years for Department of Corrections. He's also a military veteran, staff sergeant in the Air Guard. All three applicants are great interviews, very good employees. But we only have one opening.
Promotion. I move that we approve the change of status from part-time to full-time for Richard Bachelor, effective date 7/5/2026 and 26/44 for fourth year step.
All those in favor?
And then just now, I guess the only other thing that would pertain to the sheriff's office would be the, finding a contract, and I'm assuming that would be.
Absolutely, let's take that next. Anything you want to add to that same thing?
Notice that we made some changes. I made you aware of those changes in the latest version. I believe that it totally encompasses what we agreed upon, to take a little bit of fine tuning. But I think we got in all the language that was necessary. We're all agreeable except for Lindsay, and that's just because she has to write the thing. But no, even I was even able to convince Lindsay. So I think we're good, and I think this is a great opportunity for us. We've got a good bunch of people that represent us in that union, and they do a great job every single day protecting all of us. So I think it's a good country.
So this is for approving the contract.
Yeah.
And the retro pay.
Yeah. You want to make 2 second motions or?
On this one.
Okay, right. I move that we approve the contract between Oxford County and Fraternal Order of Police to include retro pay. What do you have for that? As negotiated for effective January 1st, 2026 through December 31st, 2020.
Yes, all those in favor? Very good.
We're working on this.
Yeah, if you get a chance, make sure you provide us with sign from the committee. Get that signed copies.
We will, you will get them off and we will sit down with, Lindsay later on, later on this afternoon, and measure out what we're going to be the rest of. Thank you so much. Thank you. Sorry.
Treasurer's report. We've gone out for that. All right. Oh, no.
So, I think some areas where we had a budget that we could be keeping our eyes on. One is deputies' wages. We are 54,000 ahead of budget. We currently have one extra deputy due to a demotion of a deputy. So that line is, but we also have a vacant position because the Mexico deputy, fourth deputy was not hired. They're only paying for 3 deputies. So with those two offsetting one extra plus one vacancy, we would expect to be sort of on budget, but we're over. And that is entirely due to overtime. They have spent 52% of their overtime budget for the year as of the end of May. So we are well ahead on the overtime budget, and it's covering overage in that line. We are also under budget in the detectives line. We had 2 vacancies up until 2 months ago when Deputy Lowe moved into the detective position. And now we have 1 vacancy in that line. So while we have savings in that line, those are going to be lower than the overage that we have in the deputies line. We do have savings in the school resource officers line of 25,000. This is due to Percy Turner's position. We also have a deficit in the revenue school resource officers line of 28,000. So those are offsetting to each other. Additionally, the sheriff's department revenues are behind budget by 103,000. This is primarily due to the Mexico contract having 3 deputies versus 4 that were budgeted for. And also the school resource officer contract that I just mentioned. And as we know, the Bethel contract is in flux at the moment, so we may expect future deficits in that line.
Did you, I read this all, did you look at what that would mean to us?
Yes, yeah, it's on the last page. I have a section on it, but between Mexico and Bethel, it is a deficit of 505,000. 500,000. Our CC full-time wages are over budget by 54K. We recently had some terminations in RCC, so I expect that line to shift some of the overage into the part-time staffing line, where we do have a savings of 43K in part-time staffing. So right now the net overage between the part-time and full-time line is 11,000 in RCC. Jail full-time salaries are ahead of budget by 17K. This is due to promotions and reclassifications that happened after the budget was developed. So we had budgeted some people at a lower salary than they are currently receiving. Insurance.
There's a question about that, just like forecasting out, we just had someone retire.
Yes.
Would obviously be at a higher salary than the person we hired to replace that person, right? So will we see some of that participate out, or is it too late in the way for that to be very impactful?
It could definitely be impactful. Hopefully it will be, but another thing is when somebody retires, we pay out all of their accumulated sick and vacation time, and it's 100% of their sick time that we pay out if they retire or 20 years, which I believe this person has. So we will likely have a very large payout to this person, when we process their retirement.
Okay, so it's likely to put us.
Yeah, I think it will put us over more, too. Insurance, the risk pool policy came in higher than budgeted by 14,000, so we are over in that line by that amount. Capital improvements, this shows, it looks like we are over by 223,000. However, this is for accounting purposes, we need to record, capital improvements as general fund expense, because they belong in the general fund, and on fund financial statements as a cost. However, we are using reserve funds to cover these items, so they don't actually impact our budget. They don't come out of taxpayer dollars, they come out of reserves that were accumulated in prior years. And that is, for the RCC, part of the final bill that we are paying under ARPA is going to, come out of Jeff's reserve. And that was planned for. We knew that was going to happen when we negotiated that contract, that it was going to be more than was available via ARPA. And then part of that is for the improvements in the airport that are our agency share, for the grants that Tony has through FAA and Maine Department of Transportation. So I would say those aren't variances we need to be concerned with. They don't impact our budget, and at the end of the year, it won't impact our unassigned fund balance, because it comes out of restricted funds that we have set aside. We're also performing favorably to budget in some areas. Other income, we are ahead 70,000. This is due to interest. We are earning at a higher interest rate, and will continue to do so. IT personnel, due to the timing of their hire, we have 18,000 in savings in the personnel line that will carry through to the end of the year. Probate personnel, we have savings of 11,000. There's a part-time position in their budget that has not been filled. Services are under budget by 463,000. This is due primarily to the jail, board of prisoners, and inmate medical. The census has been lower than it was in prior years. This year, this also will likely have an impact on our state funding allocation for the state fiscal year 2027, which will begin after June 30th. So we may experience a loss in revenue for the second half of the year in the jail, but we also should have savings, depending on the amount of that drop in revenue, we should have savings that directly are a result of that lower census, driving the reduction in revenue. So I'm not terribly worried at this point.
So remind me again, when we are under budget, we can save this money somehow for like the shortfall that we expect could happen next year, right? We can set the money aside, right?
Yes, under certain limitations. So when we're talking about the jail, we have, at the end of last year, the commission placed money into it's called a credit reserve account for fiscal emergencies. But we are limited to a percentage of the overall budget that we can place into that fund. Because we placed funds in last year, if we don't use those funds, we wouldn't be able to then again add more funds if we're still within that. I believe it's 5% of the budget that we can add there. We can set aside capital reserve funds as well. And then anything that we don't set aside goes into the jail's fund balance, which would carry over into future years. We do have to commit a portion of that fund balance based on a calculation that we do during budget time. If it exceeds a certain percentage of the tax commitment to offset taxes in a future year. But yeah, essentially, yes, the money that is raised for the jail that is not spent this year is can be used in future years.
Yeah, thank you.
And the jail does have a relatively healthy fund balance going into this year because they also experienced savings last year in the board of prisons and medical services funds.
Right, yeah. And just the volatility of that, I just want to make sure that we can keep that because we just, one inmate could cost, $500,000.
Yeah.
We just never know. So I just think it's prudent to try to save that. I was just double checking. Thank you.
We have some other favorable variances, but these are mainly due to timing. I do expect we will spend these line items down before the end of the year. And that's facilities and maintenance, technology, equipment, and community support and other. Other is where we budgeted the study that's being done on the sheriff's department. So that will certainly be spent. Facilities, we're doing multiple facilities needed improvements, heat pumps, etc., that are likely to spend down that full budget. Technology, we may have some savings due to the server equipment that Platinum was able to purchase, but it's very hard to say at this point in the year. And without having to weigh in on what we had planned, we may have planned that server purchase for future years and not this year. So I don't think we can count on savings. And equipment is largely the equipment for body cameras and tactical gear for the police department. So they certainly said that before the end of the year. If not, they will have other overages in their budget, so we'll take any savings we can get there.
Community support, what is that? Remind me.
That is where the payments are for the nonprofits that the county supports. So the state and the county, so Illinois. Yeah. And one just must be a month behind in their payment. Overtime report. So the overtime, the county has utilized 53% of the overtime budget for the year as of the end of May. The expected, if we're tracking to our pay periods, would be 42% used at this point in the year. So you're certainly trending well over. Our CC is over by 68%. Deputies at 52%. DA's office 86%, and buildings and grounds at 137. DA's office and buildings and grounds are much smaller budgets, so that impact isn't as great, but it's also very easy to show a large overtime, a large overage percentage-wise if your budget is low to begin with. So I already mentioned during the department heads that our auditors are here this week. And then we hope to have audit by the end of this fiscal year or well before. And then the next section in the write-up I have is to talk about the Bethel contract and what the losses from that contract would entail, and what we can expect for revenue loss in the sheriff's department. So currently between Bethel and Mexico, if Mexico continues to fund only 3 deputies and Bethel eliminates their service as of 7/1, that is a loss of $505,000. About 168 of that is due to Mexico's deputy, and then the remainder is from the termination of the Bethel. So we will need to cover that loss. If we do not cover the loss at the end of our fiscal year, that will come out of our unassigned fund balance and reduce that unassigned fund. But we have several other options. We have the commissioner set aside $500,000 at the end of last year to the credit reserve account to cover fiscal emergencies. So that could be used to offset some overages in our budget. I think one option we need to look very closely at, controlling expenses in the sheriff's department to result in budget savings of 500,000 at the end of the year. So I know Zane mentioned controlling overtime.
Right, we discussed the overtime and there's right now about $300,000 left in your overtime budget, or is that extra?
300,000 at the end of May.
Okay.
So June, as we heard in their report earlier, is likely also trending high on the overtime. And it is unlikely that it could be completely eliminated because overtime includes certain things that are required to be reimbursed at 1.5, such as stone garden details, things like that. It also includes their on-call time, items that I don't think it would be possible to fully eliminate. So I don't think we're going to find 500 in savings just looking at overtime reduction. Another thing to mention,
would there be potential savings? So if each deputy's budgeted 168, there's potentially enough for, say, a deputy in the overtime.
Yes.
Yeah. But just to think of it in sort of concrete terms like that.
Yes.
So.
It's actually less than that because 168 is for the full year.
Right,
So
right. So,
half of that, or
yeah.
or even the 171.
but again, I don't want to talk too nebulously. And, I appreciate that, no, it's not, we're not gonna make all of it up. But there is potential makeup for some portion of
Correct.
those 4 deputies.
And is that the only location that you would suggest we look at for controlling expenses in the sheriff's department?
We can look at other line items, but again, in the budget committee allocated money specifically for those line items. And so it's, that gets into difficult territory of not using our budget for the intended purpose of the committee. Another thing to point out, I'll just say is that if we are laying people off, that is not without cost either. We pay for unemployment and insurance, or not insurance, we pay unemployment claims for any employees who are terminated from the county and file for unemployment with cause. So we would be liable for paying their unemployment. As long as they qualify for that. We also would need to pay out all of their PTO time, and other items. So there's a lot of, I feel there are a lot of risks with these patrol contracts because even with the 60-day notice, there are costs that we are going to be responsible for that after that contract ends. If we do have to terminate people. So it is also not a solution that has zero cost to it. It goes that way.
Yeah,
And that's what I would like some time to do, because I think we owe you a cost benefit analysis of termination or, laying someone off. Again, that having a cost to it, not a zero line item versus, the sheriff being able to utilize them to bring down the overtime line or, for the person who's going to the academy in, was it August? So that's on the horizon. So again, I just feel like there are some numbers to present to you so that fiscally we are making the most responsible decision we can. Again, I mean, there's obviously human cost and, a great deal of empathy here. I think we need to extend if we can. But again, I don't want us to have a knee jerk of the revenue's gone. We need to immediately slash because I just think that we need to be more thoughtful about the actual numbers of cutting the costs.
That makes sense to me as well. My other concern is that, you know, if we're writing this, agreeing to these contracts saying, but for this contract, we wouldn't have these people and that, you know, these employees, and then someone ends their contract and we just keep the employees. What then is the value of our word in that contract, right? We're basically saying, well, we'll just absorb it. And I don't think it's fair to the rest of the county that we absorb it either, because there's a cost of letting people go. Listen, I don't want to let people go. I want Bethel to have a contract, but also I just feel like the ongoing cost, we haven't agreed to increase our staffing by that much. So one of the things I think we should look at is, do we have any of our staff that's still newly hired that can, you know, because they're all in a union, so it's the newly hired ones that will let go. It won't be so is there anyone newly hired that then doesn't cost, like, if we let them go? Like, should we be putting somebody through the academy? You know, those are the things, those are fiscal questions about this decision. Is it possible to look at that as well?
I believe so. I will work with Abby on that, because I don't necessarily, know all of the sort of rules of the contract in terms of when it comes to terminations.
Yeah, because there is a cost that we've already put into people's training, so like that, and that training, when we let somebody go, if they're picked up by another person, they don't owe us that money back. And that money can sometimes be substantial, $65,000-$70,000. That somebody else gets a benefit. We had that happen with a deputy a few years ago.
Right,
Let
so
go and then went someplace else and no
Yeah.
cost.
I think there again, there's some subtleties, and you know, we wouldn't have these extra deputies but for the contract. And you know, absorption versus attrition are slightly different things too. Again, to me, it's just a piece of working out the additional personnel versus a hard stop, which may not serve us best from multiple standpoints. I mean, no, we wouldn't have these 4 deputies if we didn't have the Bethel contract. But, you know, again, July 1st is a hard stop versus a slower off ramp. That's where I'm coming out on.
I think, you know, when somebody's alerted that they're the low man on the totem pole, you know, again, I'm talking the what ifs, and they say, oh, Oxford PD's got an opening, they
Yeah, I mean,
leave
we
to
don't
go to
know
that
if
opening.
We have someone give notice, you know, tomorrow, next week, or so forth, and I'm not saying we sit and hold our breath waiting for that to happen, but again, given that it's a possibility in the mix, you know, that a slower attrition to me is possibly in the long term a lesser cost than the termination and the unemployment and the payouts and the ill will we would garner. You know.
Well, I mean, if there's ill will, it should be towards Bethel, who doesn't want to pay for the employees. I mean, it's definitely
No,
not.
I agree too, but
I
you know,
just don't want to take things on.
there is a cost for hiring, and if our recruitment becomes more difficult because, you know, there is a sense, and again, we all know there's the actual facts versus what people perceive. You know, again, it doesn't reputationally serve us at all, and there is a price, a reputational price, you know, that I think you can figure out based on how hard it becomes to hire new personnel,
So I guess one of the questions would be, though, do we have deputies that are on the cusp of, say, whatever the period of time is that they can be let go with less cost, right? Because it's gonna be those that leave, and if we're close to that also, we need to.
so we would want to know that number.
Yes.
So yes,
Yes, we would want to know, like, as part of the calculation on cost, we need to know that.
Because right now we have a deputy that's on military leave for 6 to 9 months. And I don't know if he's getting a paycheck from us at all during that time, is he?
No, but the benefits are covered.
That's benefits are covered. Okay.
Um,
I just come back to my original statement, there's a lot of oars in the water here, and we want it to calm down a little bit, and I think, doing some due diligence and looking at, because there are some hidden costs here where you wouldn't automatically think of, I had not thought about that unemployment, but I do know that it's costly because I have, authorized those payments for that, to the state of Maine,
yeah.
in the past, so I think that there are definitely some things worth, looking, knowing that we can't afford to keep them.
Yeah,
And
and we
the-
could also potentially come up with a date certain, for when the termination would need to happen, again, I don't know that date, aligns perfectly with the termination of the contract, because if it's a slower off ramp to cover, an overtime, and then there is no more need for that. And then, but then the person affected has a lot better notice and date certain than, than 2 weeks from now.
We're very new in some other expenses in the sheriff's office. This year, we made the decision to lease our vehicles. Which may, we haven't even paid our first bill on that yet. So we don't know exactly where that's gonna be at. We have received 6 of our 8 new vehicles from Enterprise, and they're in the process of being set up. But that will be our first lease payment on these vehicles versus outright buying of these vehicles with an equity program that we're in. So that may dramatically affect also. I'm not saying that that's where we're gonna make savings, but that may also affect the bottom line of the sheriff's budget.
I mean, that's kind of part of my point here is that, I get moving slow and being thoughtful. I want to do that, but I don't want to move so slow that we're like buying more vehicles than we need and we're missing a window if there's a deputy that's still within the window of letting them go and, they're the less costly one for us to let go. I mean, I don't want these conversations either. But they're the reality, and I really feel like Bethel's been giving us this reality for a long time, and we've just been kind of living in la la land thinking hey, we're gonna go with this, and it just seems to me that they aren't. But I do kind of second guess contracts now because
Right.
Yeah.
all of the
I'm not in favor of them in general, but I would also not be in favor, again, I think we see which way the wind is blowing with Bethel, but if they suddenly had a complete turnaround and change of heart, again, I don't know that we would want to do this long term. I mean, it would give us better opportunity to, attrition out of the contract, but for this reason of the conversation we're having right now, as well as all the other things we've discussed about, losing money on it, I don't like it.
I think we also, like we just talked about 90,000 in equipment, right? That we're still under budget in the sheriff's office. I mean, some of that equipment would necessarily be going to those 4 deputies, right? And
Right.
I don't want to spend that money on that equipment, right? Because
Yeah.
so these are all the costs that we are ongoing making these decisions when, we've got a hard stop. I don't think we move full steam ahead seeing a wall in front of us. We need to say, okay, how are we shedding costs as quickly as possible?
Yeah, absolutely. But again, I think we need, to create a matrix of that
Yeah.
and a schedule and, working with the vehicle leasing of, having fewer vehicles over time. But again, for the same way you've asked about, which deputy might have the least seniority, there's obviously some thought into, which vehicles go and, that sort of thing. So it's just, it's a big discussion that I think is gonna take a little bit of time. So,
And we don't have any call over who the 4 are because the 4 least senior people
Oh,
that
right.
have been hired there,
Right,
the
It's
union
Yeah, they tell.
dictates all of that.
right.
Madam Chair, can I interrupt? I am concerned that the sheriff and his employees are not present for this conversation, because if it was my department being discussed, I would want to be present.
They knew, like, we're just talking about the treasurer's report and everything is in here. So if they wanted to stay, they could have. It's right here. We just talked about overtime for everybody's budget. That all the department heads know. If they want to do it, they could be here.
Thank you.
Yeah. But we're just talking about all the different costs around, and it says right here, loss of patrol. So, you know, the contract funding. So that's the discussion. But yes, I do agree, and they definitely could have stayed.
And if you think we want to have our financial conversation in concert with the sheriff, who is obviously doing the staffing and buying the equipment and so forth. I mean, it needs to be a multi-part discussion.
We can make sure that happens.
Right, because we can't just run a spreadsheet without input from the people who are actually scheduling the
Oh,
shifts.
yes, of course.
Yeah.
We have to have the sheriff's buy-in that he would actually run it that way. Because he directs his personnel.
I mean, you could do a budget and say, we're gonna save 200,000 out of overtime because, you know, there's enough personnel to not have overtime anymore, but obviously we need to do that.
Oh, right. He gets to choose whether or not there's overtime. Oh, I
Right.
gotcha. Okay,
Yeah.
yes, gotcha.
So,
Yeah, so then this could be part of our analysis then, I guess, for, if we can schedule that meeting, maybe we can talk about the finances as well, and schedule that meeting, that we discussed earlier by Zoom. Is that, you're gonna, Lindsay, like to among those and.
We'll do our best to get it together depending on the day.
Yeah. Thinking Monday or Tuesday next week.
Yeah,
That's-
that'd be possible.
I don't think that's realistic. I have to be candid about that.
I'm working on audit all week, so that will be the rest of this week. So I won't have time to.
So what do you think is reasonable?
So the two big things I have are the audit, and then we need to do retro pay for the deputies following week. That will take quite a bit of time as well. So I would say I think aim for the end of the month or the early July.
So what if we said we think this should be prioritized when we're doing the retro pay? We put this on your agenda before the retro.
Yes, I could prioritize it if that's the direction.
I don't think that's a very good idea.
You don't?
No, because we're talking about people's pay here. So,
I know, it's both ways, like, they're talking about people's pay.
right, it's something we agreed to on a contract. I think we could get that out as soon as we can. That's just maybe.
Yeah, it's just then it puts us after our, so much after what I was trying to do, which is look at the finances and not move ahead if we're not, you know, without knowing where we're going. And that puts us after our meetings.
It's a bind. That's just my opinion.
My personal feeling is that I think the speed changes for us depending on their vote tomorrow. If they vote not even to revisit this at the emergency town meeting, then we know that's never, and I think then that speeds us up. If we have a vote that they say, yeah, we're gonna put it on a warrant, and we've passed that first hurdle, then I think that gives us a little bit more time, because I think, again, seeing what they say there before we make a final decision in regards to this, that we fight a little bit of time, and come with a little, knowing what we need.
I mean, I would also argue that, you know, if this goes into July, we're not losing that much money. If we make a thoughtful decision on July 21st versus a hasty decision on the 30th of June. I think it's worth those 3 weeks.
We're not losing all $105,000 in a week.
Yeah, we're not losing all the money in the first 3 weeks, so, I just,
Right,
I don't, you know,
yeah, I didn't assume that, but yes,
yeah,
okay,
but.
okay.
I think this has been a great discussion on timing, on both revenues and expenditures, and we think we have a better sense of all of the issues that fall within the jurisdiction of the sheriff, including the effects of Mexico and Bethel, overtime, enterprise, and clearly the staffing issues and the equipment issues that are favorable at the moment. So I was thinking, and Beth just hit it, by the 21st of July, we will have 1/2 of the fiscal year. We will know at that time the status of the 2 contracts. We'll have a better view of where we stand in terms of the future in those 2 contract areas. I don't think we'll know much about enterprise until September at the end of the quarter.
Yeah, well, once we pay our first bill, we'll know what our bill is gonna be for the next 6 months, because they put cars on the ground 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, so we're paying them once they get on the ground, and that lease, but we're paying 1/5 of their value. So again, that's something that's, was mentioned with Lindsay in the finance part of this, is that something, totality of that budget hinges on it.
I guess my point was on 21st of July, with 6 months of known expenditures, knowing the picture in terms of the 2 contracts, having a better sense of enterprise, looking at overtime. Hopefully we'll know the jail monies coming in and the census and how that carries us through the calendar year for the budget year. I buy Lindsay's concerns about 27 and not knowing where the jail budget is going to be then. If we gather on the 21st, we'll have a much better picture of where we stand in real terms, timing and otherwise, than we do today.
I'm not going to be here on the 21st.
You're not going to be here.
I'm on vacation, yeah. So, if we have that at the workshop meeting, discussion at the workshop meeting, that would.
Right, on the 2nd.
The numbers will still be available, will they not, Lindsay?
The numbers, yeah, I should be able to get the reports completed before I go on vacation.
We can certainly schedule something
I
between, if we. I know it's very busy summer schedules, but we may be able to put a special meeting together.
Numbers together, I think we can present them
Okay.
to you, so, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so then we can look for some outcome numbers on the 2nd, is when we'll next discuss impacts and looking at impacts. Is that what you're saying, Lindsay?
No, I was saying that to Stalin's point, I think we could look sooner at impacts. I think I'm speaking about this sort of mid-year.
Okay.
Like treasurer's report, just that I will not be at the next, monthly meeting, but, Beth has said that as long as I can get the reports done, she can speak to it at that meeting.
Okay, so then that's sort of like a mid-year overall treasurer's report. And then just to go back to impacts and looking at options, we could do that on the 2nd. Is that?
You certainly could do that on the 2nd. I'm sorry, the 2nd of July.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm actually not going to be available on the 2nd. But I could have it ready for any other day that week.
So maybe do we have a meeting by Zoom? I mean, I prefer to do it with you because, you're just the best one to sort of answer our questions as we think through things. So could we do a meeting?
Let's see, when is the start of your holiday? When,
I'm leaving on July 11th, but I have a doctor's appointment on the 2nd in the morning, so I.
so my recommendation, if we're gonna have a meeting with Lindsay, we buy her as much time as we can, because this is, again, a complicated issue with lots of oars in the water. So I would recommend to the board that we meet on the 9th and have a discussion, and we have a meeting in the morning of the 9th. Because that will give Lindsay the maximum amount of time that she has to complete the task at hand and give us that information in person. And if not, then we would schedule it as soon as, you're back.
Okay, yeah.
Because we're really not giving you any extra time to work on it, unless you work on it on your vacation, which I would, not recommend.
The vacation's not the 11th, so the 9th is prior to that.
The 9th is prior to that, but the 10th is, and the 11th is when she leaves, which is a Saturday.
Right. So are you suggesting an in-person finance meeting on the 9th?
July 9th would be a Thursday, second Thursday of the month. So we could push our, commissioners meeting from the 2nd to the 9th with notice. Can we do that?
Yeah, of
The
course.
workshop with notice. We could push that from the 2nd to the 9th, and that way would allow accurate, without pushing information.
And by that date, I should also have financials available for July as well, so I can have those reports for that meeting as well.
It would actually work well, because if you're gonna have a really long discussion, it won't interfere then with, that's the day of the employee 4th of July barbecue thing too, so.
And I don't think our discussion will be all that long,
Okay.
really. We'll just look at the numbers and, I mean, it will take us a while, but not like hours. I don't anticipate. So is the board amenable to that, moving our commissioners workshop to the 9th? We can have just sort of a fuller impact discussion around the finances.
I can do the 9th.
The only thing that I hesitate on is if there's some miracle and on the 30th, they vote for this contract.
I don't believe that will happen. I was also at the meeting.
Yeah.
They are sort of fundamentally opposed to certain items in the contract, and the select board seemed to be rather clear that they wouldn't sign our contract. They mentioned that this will allow them power in negotiations with the county, which to me implies that they intend to not vote for this with the hope that it will bring us back to the negotiating table with them to get better, more favorable terms to that in the contract, which is, I wouldn't recommend we go down that road.
Okay,
A second.
all right. And the only other negative, guys, is we're missing the barbecue. And I really was not able to that. So I guess I'll let you drive it.
Oh. The barbecues, I thought the barbecues on that.
No, it's on the 2nd.
Okay.
Well, they can still go. I would just make a notice that like the commissioners are still gonna be here, but they're not discussing. I would just make a notice that they're gonna be on campus. They can meet together as long as there's notice given. So you can still attend it. I would just say that the commissioners will all be here, but they won't be having a meeting. They'll just be attending the barbecue as staff. Just so that no one can claim that you had an illegal meeting.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, you can still come, of course.
Okay, so, all right, so then we're in agreement. We're moving it to the 9th. And we will wait and hear from Lindsay. Okay, perfect. Okay. Anything else on that? Are we good? Because we're not done here. I interrupted. I mean, that was a segue off one of these.
Yeah, so I just, additionally on the list of items that could be considered is a draw from the casino fund. Like some combination of credit reserve account expense reductions and a casino fund. Currently the casino fund's at 3.65 million, but we have an 800,000 draw planned in our budget this year, so that would bring the budget around to 8.85, which is available. And then the undesignated fund balance, as of the end of 2025, my projection is 1.6 million in undesignated funds. So if we do have an overage that is not covered either by additional revenues that are allocated or expenses that are reduced, it would reduce that undesignated fund balance. My last bullet is going into 2027. There will be a loss in our funding sources of 842K. With these changes annualized for the year. That does include both Bethel and Mexico, if Mexico improves their 3 deputies. So if we do not reduce expenses by commensurate amounts or identify other revenues, that would be an increase of 840K in taxes in the 2027.
So I think as part of our conversation that we have on that July 9th meeting, I would like to talk overall about contracts and just our liability that we're taking on, because I just think, I don't know how best to, what that looks like, but I think we need to consider that financially, as a company, as a board, I guess, talk about if it's the that county as whole. All right, so we went through that. Is there anything else that you wanted to highlight for us? Or just
No, that was all I had.
Thank you. I appreciate putting me both on the spot. Thank you so much. Okay, so thank you. All right, so we need a motion to table the opioid response committee, because we're not doing that in course.
So
All right. All right, all those in favor, all right, table that. And so we've just changed our July date. Was that the date that we were gonna have the opioid committee?
No, it was the 20th, it's a regular meeting.
Okay. Right. Oh, you're here, right, all right, Regional Communication Center, our management contract is the first thing up, yeah. What do we do? Okay. All right, Jeff, Regional Communication Center.
Okay, we're gonna go to bid, we went out to bid. Yes, go ahead.
We went up to bid, and I believe you have the sheet with the bids on it. If I was low bid across the board. And what I'm looking for is the approval to move forward with CFI. And what happened, and I'll explain the numbers here to you a little bit. Call out rate are 40 days and after hours. They were the low ones there. That is if we have a windstorm, ice storm, or something, and I need them to go check the towers. That's their rate for doing that. The next one is inspection, and that is a one-time fee. That's not annual, that's a one-time fee. And then we went to monthly tower visits. Excuse me. So they were a little better all across the Sweden, dispatch and streaked. New renters, is the 25% is what they get paid for. They get 25% of the monthly, fee. And then, existing renters, they don't collect for, and marketing fees, they're all included in that 25%. And if we go back to the tower visits, it's like Sweden. If he gets a contract, someone on that tower, a monthly inspection goes away. He doesn't recommend monthly inspection. He twice a year is what he recommends. That would leave dispatch, which I can pretty much inspect dispatch every day. But if he comes up with somebody to come onto that tower as well, the 25%, any inspection, those tower visit fees go away, and same with Streak It. Streak It is gonna be a tougher sell because there are so many towers on Streak It and ours isn't the tallest. Ours is probably the shortest. So, that's what I'd like to recommend that we go with, CFI. We work with his company now, and he will go bidder across the board. And then, I'd like to, recommend we also, in the contract, the final contract we sign, I'd like you to approve him as being a low bidder, and then we'll come up with the final contract. I'd like to set up a 5-year contract with him for these services. And like I said, once he has a renter on a tower, the monthly tower visit go away. And the inspections is only is a one-time only deal. So he'll go inspect, he inventories, he does everything needed in the tower. I guess if you have any questions, I'll answer them.
My question is, you want to approve him as the lowest bidder and then create a contract. I guess my confusion with that, or the place I need clarification is, if they weren't bidding on a 5-year contract, but that's what we're creating, is that, that seems like weren't giving them what we truly were looking for them to bid on.
I don't disagree with that. But we can go with 1-year contract.
So what if we ask them to bid is just their overall prices,
Yeah.
and then we're gonna extrapolate those prices into a 5-year contract?
Yes.
And so their prices, were they given the idea that this was like, they're holding these prices for a year, or, because that's my question is.
Some of them were, some of them were holding the prices for 60 days.
So they were expecting that they could change their price every 60 days, or were they expecting the cost to be?
They were expecting the contract to be awarded within.
Oh, okay, so they were,
The bid was good for 60 days, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
yes, okay, and then these people bidding were expecting the contract to go, but they enter a contract for a year, or they're entering a contract for 5 years?
I think that was left up to us as far as how many years the contract was.
Yeah, Tony, do you have something?
I reviewed these bids, with Zane and Jeff, and, CFI, to the quality of their work and their expertise and their pricing. I recommend that we, the value add to my sheet. Value add and the cost and their experience, I recommend CFI. And I don't think there would be any problem with a 5-year contract with them, and they'll hold these prices.
For the 5 years?
Yes.
Do we want a motion to approve the CFI as the low bidder for marketing and maintenance of our tower?
Of the Sweden Streaking Mountain and dispatch towers. Yep. So,
All those in favor?
Thank you.
So proposed changes to communication advisory board.
I incorporated the letter that I received from him, and I believe that there was a copy of what the changes were. Tony Milligan is taking over as the chair. We're going to go over these and allow support for amending them. And I do think that it stays within our mission of the board.
Kind of concern I had with the change is I didn't really think it was appropriate to make EMA a voting member. And only because it seems like that's one department in the county, sort of, and this is an oversight board, another department, and it just felt like not appropriate to have a director of one department having a vote over oversight of another department, of another director. And so that, I'd prefer to see that changed, because to me that, it just, I don't know, for me, it just looks like, I prefer to see more equal footing and respect there. It seems to me to, I guess if I was a department head, I wouldn't want another department head to have the ability to vote on a board sort of censuring me or something if it kind of came to that, which I know in the past has, yeah, you're, sure.
It's an advisory board.
Yeah.
So we, me, you, we have the final say of what, if I don't like what it is, I have full override authority of the board.
Right, we don't, right, they advise us, they don't tell,
Right.
I understand.
Yeah, okay, that's.
And I can certainly go back to them with that, your explanation. I was okay with the constitution and the bylaws, how they've written it out. And I did, have a discussion about it. There was a little lax in communication through it because the, chair was absent for the last day that we actually voted on it, but he did give me his revised copy. I did review it prior to, putting it to you folks.
And again, the county administrator is on it as a member, but not a voting member.
Right. I can speak, but I don't vote.
Yeah.
Same with me.
Oh, you're speaking of vote.
I have no.
They have a lot of questions of us, so they,
Right.
instead of calling us on us as the general public, they decided to let us join.
That.
And that was done the last time we renewed these bylaws, we
Right.
changed me from being the public to being actually.
I mean, I don't need to make it a big deal, but to me, I feel uncomfortable about that because I feel like that should, one department head shouldn't be able to do. Because I understand it is an advisory board, they don't tell you what to do, but they do sometimes.
One of the things that they've been concerned about, and I think one of the reasons why this came up, was because, I had held strong on the quorum, the number of quorum. This having her as a voting member, she regularly shows up to meetings, so it gives them that one person that does their quorum. And that was,
Now that they're on Zoom, I thought they had a.
the quorum is better, but we did wait an extra couple of minutes to have Steve Goldberg join us online in order to make the quorum last meeting. We discussed this, because Tony was out of town.
Yeah.
And there's a couple other people that, spring was upon us and.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind bringing that back to them, and I don't know, I could attend that next meeting too, maybe as well. I know the last one came up and I think I wasn't able to be there. Because I wasn't there when we talked about this. Am I a voting member or the board has to?
The board has one voting member there. It has been in the past, Kim Turner. Commissioner Turner has been on there. However, they have allowed by proxy you to serve on there and you have voted in the past.
Yes, okay.
So that may be something too that.
That we should decide who is the member.
Who is the member and if there's a proxy and we should actually probably establish
Yeah,
that here and this meeting would be nice.
okay.
I'm more than happy to let chat. Plus you're terminating on nothing.
Yeah, okay. I don't mind. I have been interested to be part of it and obviously there was, some of my area was more involved and engaged and concerned about some things. So that was partly why I started to go anyway, just because it was my town's. So I don't mind formally being that person. And then do we need to set formally that there's a proxy? Or is it just whoever shows up? If I can't be
Well,
there.
I would think that you would be able to say a proxy. I mean, maybe you and Tim being I don't know.
Yeah.
It's up to you. It's up to you folks, but I don't think it would hurt to establish that for them and say these are, because they kind of have a little, and I like
Yeah,
that.
it's loose, yeah, and I Right, because when I show up, I don't really know my role either, so it feels better to make
And
this.
then they're like, Mr. Cox here, we got the quorum, let's vote. That kind of thing. It happened one time, so, you know, I think it should be formal.
Okay. Okay, so then I would like to make that request of them that they reconsider that. For me, it's a county concern for me, just wanting to make sure that department heads are all equal. And I not a personality thing. I don't think Allison's, gonna try to do or that you have any problem with it. I just think that just playing out any sort of scenario, I think that's just a better way to keep our departments equal there. So, and then I guess we need a motion then to put me on the board. That'd be correct. And then Tim as proxy, are you okay with that?
Yeah. I move that we appoint Commissioner Kine as the leader of the cab, the board of the cab, and Commissioner Turner as the proxy.
Yeah, that too.
That's kind of important, yes.
It is. All right, we got a second and a vote. All right, that's yeah.
Well, I will go back to them and,
So hopefully I'll be there and explain it.
Did you say you was proxy?
And
Did you say you was proxy? Sorry.
I'm the proxy.
and we have a meeting actually at noon time on the 9th.
right, and our short meeting. That's
So it will be done before that, so you can right into the cab meeting.
exactly perfect. We planned it that way.
Sure you did.
Okay, so matters pertaining to buildings and grounds. But I see in front of me, okay, update, okay, I was. Alright.
Yep.
Update on dispatch and IT building. Oh, okay, the new building, alright, yes, I didn't even really look at this. Alright, who wants to take this away? So we had someone draw up plans for us already.
So we've kicked this idea around for several years. This has been an ongoing thing that's been happening since 2023 at different levels. This is the bottom level of a building that had been, I think, originally designed. We put it in place down here so that you could get an idea of what it looked like. Very rough idea of this much space for dispatch and that much space for IT. Was kind of come up with. It wasn't lengthy or expensive to get done because of all the other plans that we already had done. We did, when we went out to speak to people in the community of construction, they wanted something like this. It's really not all that formal. It gives basic dimensions, which I think are, I want to say 107, what was it, 170 by? I can't even read Tony, I got glasses.
I know, I need
Yeah.
stronger glasses for this. I'm
Well,
trying so hard to read it.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's
70 something.
170, yeah. So that was the initial take on it, so that way we could start talking about how big or small this project was for the people that were, the contractors that we were talking to. So during the conversations of this contract, one of the things that we put forward to these people is what their interest would be building this for the county, with the idea that they would do some owner financing for us. We didn't find too many great responses, but we did talk with 3. And we did find a response that was positive. Tony has been in the process, and I've been under the gun to review, and I have not had the time to review. Basically a request for proposal to add to this so that we could again give them a little bit more formal direction of that. And so I would love to have presented that today, but I'm behind on some other things, so that's taken the backseat. But I do think that this would give the commissioners a first look. Is this something that we're going in the right direction? come with this. The budget that has been talked about for this, is a cap of 5 million. We've talked with Lindsay and that's how we came up with that number. That was something that over the course of a 10-year contract that we would be able to absorb fairly well with our funds from the casino, as well as other funds that are set aside. So that this would be something that, wouldn't be a huge big outlay of one lump sum money, but we would try to come up with, I would personally like to come up with a couple of $1 million towards this project. So that's my overall view of the administrator. Tony has definitely, may have some more or less information than I've got.
And this would be tearing down that house and putting it down there, right? Okay, just.
Yeah, so-
checking.
And I'll get to that.
Okay, I just wanted to double check that was still where we were.
Yes.
All right, so we came up with a site plan based on what was previously done. Okay, so we took a hard look at the RCC as it is today over here, and the IT building and their needs and number of offices with their staffing they have today. RCC based on a 5-station instead of 4-station, and the necessary offices with workable bathrooms. Yeah, and electricity, all the services are right at the street down here on this corner. So this is a footprint. Behind it would be the parking area. And eventually there's room to just expand into possibly an EMA house, with additional sheriff and a step basis later on and over the year. Okay, so, but this is just focused on RCC and IT. So this is the footprint. We've moved it around different angles. It seemed to be the front. There'd be no access to the public really. Keeping the RCC secure. And all the entrances have cameras, backup generators, all considered. Still maintaining a $5 million cap. So this is what we came up with. You can see the number of offices, but this is just a shell and the layout that we are thinking about in these walls. The walls are the walls. They can be moved around as necessary. So I reached out to code enforcement. It's a $20 permit fee to have executed to start looking at demolition. And I have not gone out for quotes, but I would like to, the ability to, after this meeting today, go out quotes to demolish the building down there. So I think we're going to incur probably the age of the building, lead paint, some asbestos and so forth. So everything goes into the dumpster right to a landfill. We'll have to pay the tipping fees for the hazardous materials, but just take it down, put it in dumpsters, seal it based on all DEP regulations and so forth. And then that will be a parking lot, and that'll be the first step. If get the RFP ready for the submit out to contractors and to the public. The 3 that we looked at are all Oxford County based. This was kind of our criteria, keeping, as they mentioned, 5 million cap, a lease agreement for 10 years or less. And that will meet the financial needs of the county. So do it in those steps. So,
And I would like to come back to you at the next workshop or the other meeting to show you a cost benefit analysis of, you're talking about all these things for Lindsay to do. Where she leaves on the 11th, but, and I'm trying to work with a flexible timeline here on this, but I would like to come back to you with, when fall approaches, we heat that building every year. We have electricity to that building. We pay water and sewer to that building. And we've done so for at least the past 3 years that I know of, and maybe longer. And I'd like to do a cost benefit analysis of that versus tearing that building down and utilizing, even if we have paved the lot down there, we turn it into a gravel lot. I talked with Chris Summers last night at the at my town meeting, and he said that, you know, he didn't see that that would, you know, having it gravel would be a problem, for extra, you know, to have just a flat lot there. So that would kind of be the first step towards some of this, and I would like to see that done this year, to get that, stop us from having the expense of that building.
You know, I'd really like to know how much, I agree, I think we should get rid of the building. I also think it's a liability to have it sitting there as well. But I would like to know how much it costs for us to do that. I mean, we don't have to heat it. We absolutely don't, like this next winter, I hope it's not heated, even if it's still there. But I do think we should know how much it's gonna cost us to remove the building, just because.
I can have a number ready for the next.
Okay.
And I told him it has to be less than that. He's already told me a number, but I told him it'd be less.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure it's very costly.
Whatever you say is going.
That'll be less than that. So I guess, you know, I hope that you'll take some time and look at this and review.
Yeah.
I personally think this is a very good strategic next move here, because it gets two of our very, very important infrastructure pieces in one building that's modern, that's new. And it builds morale in both those places where we desperately need it.
Solid thought was put into it to make sure that we didn't oversize it. We have the adequate room for any growth that's needed, but will be tight, so future growth. So.
And if you look at the hallway on the back side, it actually leads out, so that if it was designed so that if we wanted to put a large garage between it, and then when the next building can be done, to put an EMA building, if we could find, you know, some funding or something outside for that, and just feel like EMA is one of the easiest place to get some federal funding for that. You know, could be this could be the start of more, and was laid open so that it could be more if needed be, and if not, and it fits the needs, it can also be a standalone building there.
So as you two, Lane and Tony, envision this, the sequence would be, between now and the cost benefit analysis being available, Tony would proceed to get a cost of demolition. You would develop the cost benefit analysis, and before we made the commitment to putting down an RFP for contracting and putting money together behind it, we would have those two events occur before we get to that point.
That would be my thoughts, yes.
If you're looking today to authorize the cost analysis for demolition and beginning.
Yeah, and I think also looking at what the, you know, digging a little bit deeper as to what the costs of this building are gonna be. I would really also like, kind of the board's permission to go out into the community. There are several philanthropists in the area that I'd love to visit, tell them what our vision is of this, and see if they would be looking to help us out in any way. Because from rumblings during election time, during this last time, I think there was some support for this in the community. And I think there may be some people that might be interested in helping us on how this.
As long as we also fix the power and don't take it off.
I'm not saying it would continue upon yet.
So we need then to have bids for the demolition. That needs to go out for bid, yes?
The dollar amount, that's our policy.
Okay. So that we would need, authorization for you to bid for the demolition. Yeah. And then we can decide.
Bring the bids back, then you can approve that if you want to proceed.
So moved.
All those in favor? Wait, first steps.
Thank you.
I like the fundraising aspect too. So full speed ahead.
I
can identify those people, we might utilize them for.
It's important.
For your re-election bids, that what you're saying, someone? For money for your campaign?
All right. That's really out of the way.
All right, I would, are we done with that topic? I'm sure would like to go get some coffee.
Review
heat pump.
heat pump. Yep.
All right, we can do that.
So I made sure to budget for that this year. We were planning on doing it last year. The time ran short for us to get it done last year, so we didn't, but we had been authorized to go out for bid for it. Tony had gone out for bid. He had gotten 4 bids as of last year. We had basically during the process, he and I had drilled it down to Nason Mechanical last year in scoring them. So he asked for an update bid from Nason's and go ahead, Tony.
And they matched the bid that they submitted in December of 2024. So they were not low bidder, but there's a lot of hidden costs with the low bidder, such as maintenance fees and all that. We chose Nason Mechanical. They were second because they currently do the majority of the maintenance work around the campus here. And they're here often, so mobilization, demobilization charges would be a minimal if they're here on site anyways. They do have somebody within their organization that is certified for application to Efficiency Maine. There are benefits for reduction or rebates, I call them rebates, with Efficiency Maine for heat pumps still, municipal and commercial. So we'll be applying for those. I do not know what the dollar amount that would be awarded, but we would be applying for those to offset these costs. And if we're successful today in allowing to issue a PO with Nason Mechanical, then I would start that process with Nason Mechanical with Efficiency Maine. So there'll be some costs lower than the 30. This is heat pumps for deeds and probate, and we try to avoid putting in the temporary AC units just because the noise that they create, the security issues they have, especially in both of those departments, and window units and so forth. So we put up with it for years, but we are at risk when that happens. And if Sherry wants to comment on the temperature in her office right now, please do so.
He's here.
It's cooler down here. They're doing their work in the,
In the sauna.
in the sauna.
In the sauna.
And it's just a tough
It is
situation.
This is more efficient, and they still have the cast iron dressed up cast iron radiators over there, and just make a much better work environment for the folks in both of those areas.
So then the heat pumps would be in the summer, obviously, the only source of air conditioning, but in the winter, it would not be the only source of heat. Is that right?
No.
It's not the only source of heat,
Okay,
but it would be great to have it as that supplemental heat.
right.
Because we are looking at another year or two down the road. We're coming to the end of our life expectancy of these wood pellet boilers that we have. We did a lot of repairs to them this winter, and we're coming to the end of their life. And so this would be nice because this would eat into the number of BTUs that we have to replace by those units down in the basement.
So if I may add about the temperature, what you just stated, so those big cast iron heaters, we don't have control over the heat that comes out of those. It's either cranking and you're dying, or you don't have it on and you're freezing. There's just no control on that. The back 2 vaults are part of the central air here. So those stay at temperature control because of the preservation. But in order for our 2 offices to stay cool, there is really no way. And we tested it yesterday. The main part of the office where customers are, that stays about 5 degrees cooler than my part of the office, and we're only a doorway apart from each other. So it's about 82 in my side of the office right now, and it's 78 in the bigger part of the office.
So when they did central air for you on another section where the records are kept, why didn't they just do it over, like, it's still close?
Because it was an addition. So the central air controls the back vault, which was the addition, the flat roof part. And then our section is the original section that they didn't continue it on. So those big cast iron heaters are also in that section in between, but we don't turn those on in the wintertime because it does get too hot for those books. So that back central air piece keeps that temperature controlled as well. And currently what we're doing in order to keep us fairly comfortable is to turn a box fan on out back, push that towards the vault door, and then we have another fan in the vault door to push into the offices, and then we have another fan blowing in my office. So
The chain of fans.
it's the train.
You know what rolls downhill, they say.
And by the time it gets into the final office, it's warm.
In the meantime, they try to do a little deeds work.
Yeah, yeah, a little bit.
Right, yeah.
So my question here though is that you said Dave's World has hidden costs, but I feel like if there were hidden costs, they should be part of what we're looking at right now. Because if they're about $10,000 cheaper than Nason. So,
Their maintenance agreements would add up to $10,000 to offset it.
and there's no maintenance agreement for Nason?
It's included, so.
They did figure in the $4,500 for electrical, which Nason put into their bid, which is definitely a requirement after we've looked at that.
So Dave's World didn't spend much time looking at the electrical, so it's quite a run. We looked at the number of feet across from Deeds to the electrical panels, it's quite a way, they never investigated that. I just didn't feel that the bid was adequate and or well defined, so. Maybe the maintenance costs of maintaining the units. Spring and fall cleanouts and all that is not what the Masons do.
What did we budget for this?
We budgeted actually at least $78,000, but this and some repairs over at the sheriff's department was included. So this would be the first part. I'm going to get this out of the way and look at what the budget is before we tackle anything at the sheriff's department. Because they're the same, they're in a similar situation in that building right now, but they're able to use air conditioning units in their windows and they have 2 of them installed.
And so
They
the
use-
idea was that you would put heat pumps over there as well?
Yes, because these air conditioning units, they can't use the microwave, unless they shut the air conditioning off. Or the photocopy machine, because the 2 don't draw well together. So what we would like to do is eventually get over there and get some, either heat pumps like this in some offices or redo their air conditioning unit, but that is very expensive.
I'm also getting pricing on the sheriff's department and also looking into what it's gonna take to replace the boilers down. So,
Okay.
getting numbers together, for the
Yeah.
budget season.
All right, do we have a motion?
Yes, I move that we approve the proposal presented by Nason Mechanical of $32,450, which includes the electrical work done by regional.
Favor?
You,
All right, do you mind? We're gonna take just a 5-minute bio break.
For the longest out, Abby?
You have the, you like start, and I'll stop recording.
There we are.
Yeah.
Everybody back in there?
I'm a big fan.
We are.
Okay, all right, coming back from our 5-minute break. Looks like we've done everything on that page, so.
We're down to accept resignations for 2 dispatchers, Article 8. And then we've also already done authorize hiring and ratifying labor contract. So we have an executive session after this.
Okay.
And what's up?
All right, so resignations. Kira Sloan and Caitlin Puchin. I'm so disappointed in this. How long have they been working for us?
Kara has been a little over a year. Caitlin is just about 6 months.
Both seem to indicate that they would be available for backup if needed.
That we can have a conversation about that, whatever you want to do.
Well,
I think we need to wait the 2 weeks before they need to resubmit to be part-time,
oh, okay.
because they have to have a 2-week separation, right, Abby?
Correct.
Yeah.
We should pick them one at a time.
Kara was the first one. And last time you approved us to be able to post that job for her resignation.
Not for Caitlin, so we
But
have
not
to
for
have
Caitlin.
another opening.
Right.
Yeah, one more.
Are we having exit interviews with these two?
So we have sent out to them for an exit interview. I spoke directly to Tammy, Tamara Bisbee, and her resignation was due to her time on the job. She had experienced enough and had enough, and she and her husband were at a point where they could afford for her not to hold the job down, and she was ready to be done. The incident that happened at the jail was definitely a facilitator of that. It was to her too close to home. And, again, she gave us 29 years of service in that role. And, she was looking to spend some more time. You'll think of this, that she said to me with her grandbabies. So they've already been planning some sleepovers. So that's part of that.
And 2 of them responded to the exit interview, so I have them if you'd like to review them later.
The two others responded to exit interviews.
Yep, 2 out of those 3 responded to it.
Okay, wonderful. And yes, I would definitely like to see those. Okay. So we will, I guess, take a motion to accept the resolution.
We accept the resignation of Carol Sloan as a dispatcher.
Yeah, all those in favor.
And will we accept the resignation of Caitlin McCutcheon as dispatcher?
Can we both share position?
And so,
Yep.
And I move that we post an open position for our county RCC dispatch.
All right, so then at this point, the only thing we have left is an executive session to discuss personnel matter, which Jeff will join us for, and we're not going to do any other executive session. And that will conclude then our public portion of this meeting completely. So we will come back to our Zoom for those who are watching, but only to end our meeting. So at this point, we'll move into executive session.
And we go into executive session to discuss a personnel matter number 1 MRSA subsection 456.
All right, all those in favor? Okay, we're in executive. Out of executive session, and with that, I'll take that motion to adjourn.
We adjourn at 1:41 PM.
Second. All right, all those in favor? Right, and we're adjourned.
We need to sign.
Okay, so we just adjourned without reading something publicly that we needed to, so we're back on to do that. This is a resolution of the Commissioners of Oxford County, Maine, authorizing the application for $137,202,163 for airport improvement updating airport master plan grants. After duly called and noticed meeting, be it resolved by the Commissioners of Oxford County as follows. The application for and obtaining the airport infrastructure grant from the U.S. Department of Transportation, Federal Aviation Administration, in the amount of $137,000 is authorized. The application for obtaining the airport updating in accordance with the airport master plan from the U.S. Department of Transportation Federal Aviation Administration in the amount of $202,163 is authorized. Supervisor of the Oxford County Regional Airport
We do, but they're all.
and or the county administrator are authorized to apply for or obtain said grants and are further authorized to execute any documents necessary to obtain said grants, any prior execution of such documents by the supervisor of the Oxford County Regional Airport and or the county administrator, and any other actions taken by the supervisor of the Oxford County Regional Airport and or the county administrator relating to the above referenced grants is hereby ratified. This resolution shall take effect immediately. Approved June 16, 2026 by Commissioners of Oxford County, made in a meeting duly convened after sufficient public notice and conducted in South Paris, Maine.
Yeah.
All right, with that, I will take a motion to adjourn.
And we adjourn on 1.3.
Second.
Okay,
All right, all those in favor?
okay, no problem, thank you.